Alright, hello everybody, welcome. It's 6 p.m. on August 9th, Tuesday. It's the Conservation Commission meeting for Leominster. My name is Nick Krepp, I'm the conservation agent. Before we get started, just remind everyone if you have any devices or anything on you, just please put those on silent at the top of the meeting here. Here's our last commissioner here, Rich.
Wonderful.
And with that, we'll go ahead and get kicked off with a roll call. So starting with Chairman Chuck Raymond. Here. And Vice Chair Liz Ricci.
Here.
Richard Gullick.
Here.
Ken Ridlin.
Present.
Mike Seekey.
Present.
And Jeff Goyne.
Here.
Alright, and we have a full commission of 6 of the current 6 members, and I'll hand it off to Chuck.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. And welcome everybody. It's a big crowd. Hopefully we'll get through this pretty quickly. Not a lot of items on the agenda, so I assume you're all here probably for 1 or 2 of them. Anyway, so now that we've done the call to order, I'll read off the first hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent regarding the construction of a single-family home and associated site work. Address 10 Wildflower Road, 140 Lincoln Street, Lot 4A. Map and parcel 563-15, DEP file number 199-1160. Is there somebody here to present on the topic?
Yep.
Yes, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm John Plifka, I'm with McCarty Engineering.
Okay.
We're representing BBC Development. We're here as part of, we submitted 2 NOIs on behalf of our applicant, our client, and we're just proposing a single family home, driveway, site improvements. And on this one here, we pushed the house up as far as we could on the zoning setback line. And we're just looking for some minor grading within the 100-foot buffer. And that activity should be around 35 feet from the actual resource. It's pretty short. I mean, I'm happy to open it up to questions. I have the second one. I don't know how you want to do it.
We'll do them individually.
Okay.
And this is 10.
This is 10 Wildflower.
So this is number 10, so it's the one in green, obviously.
Correct. And on the other side, I had the other one.
All right, and what will be happening, what is proposed to be happening behind the house, which is basically all within the 100-foot buffer zone?
So where our coloring is, that's our limit of grading.
Mm-hmm.
Just chasing the grade just to give them a little bit of a yard and just so we don't have any flooding issues.
All existing material, or you bringing new material in?
It's pretty close to all existing. A little bit of cut, a little bit of fill, but it's pretty much the same.
So it does grade down to the wetlands. I don't, you have any erosion control
We
barriers?
do have straw wattle and silt fence proposed along our limit of grading.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Straw wattles and silt fence.
Yeah, and that's the.
I don't know what a straw wattle is.
We'll get to questions from the public.
I'm sorry.
I don't have any further questions. Anybody else on the commission have any questions? No.
I mean, are we not anticipating grading on this side? That's why we have the grade lines over here?
Correct.
Okay.
What is a major waterway? It's not.
What was that, Ken?
Waterway. Is there just a waterway or just a buffer from?
There's a swampy area.
Wetlands resource.
Yeah. Any other questions from the commission? With that, I will open up to the public. If there's anybody here that would like to ask any questions, whether it's about what's straw wattle or anything about the plan, please do so. But before you ask your question, if you could state your name and address, well, we'd appreciate it. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
You say my name and address?
Name and address.
Yeah, Stephanie Quinlan at 140 Lincoln Street.
Thank you.
So my questions kind of pertain to both single-family residences that are being proposed adjacent to the.
Then that's fine. If you could try to keep it just to this one, because with the 16 is next.
Sure.
So if you have anything, if your questions kind of straddle both, well, we'll kind of handle it as best we can.
Okay. Well, if they straddle both. Here, okay, just
Because if you notice, one is almost completely within the 100-foot buffer.
Correct.
The other one is not.
And this
So,
is.
This one is the one mostly outside the 100-foot buffer, correct?
Okay. I will save it for the next one.
Okay, fair enough. Ma'am, did you wanna ask what straw wattle is?
So.
Yes.
And your name and address, please.
My name is Kathy T. Bear, 120 Lincoln Street.
Thank you. Would you care to define what straw wattle is then?
Sure, so it's an erosion control measure, basically, so it filters out silt and sediment.
What exactly is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, so it's a hay bale in a tube, and then there's a silt fence, it's a fabric that's staked behind it, and it's made to catch all the runoff in the event that there was a stormwater issue.
It will detain the stormwater, not back it completely up, but what main thing it does is it filters out any sediment, so any water getting through it is clean water and isn't filled with sediment.
It also provides a barrier, if there's a heavy rainstorm and the erosion comes down, it'll stop any of the erosion from happening and back it right up there so it won't go down into the resource area.
Great, thank you. Well,
Any other questions about 10 Wildflower Lane, sir?
So Dan T. Bear, 120 Lincoln Street,
Mhm.
I've never heard of swap, I mean, I've seen it. Is that up permanently or is that just during building?
Did you care to answer that question?
So that's gonna be there for the duration of construction, and once that's commenced, it'll be removed.
That's what I thought, okay.
It's removed after, conservation agent makes a final site walk at the end of construction to make sure everything is.
Stabilized.
Stabilized.
Good point.
Stabilized.
Good point, stabilized lawn is grown in and all that.
So Stephanie Quinlan, again, 140 Lincoln.
Okay.
Sorry, I figured it did make sense to ask a couple specific questions about this one.
Mhm.
What is the volume of expected fill?
Like I said, it's pretty much even. We're not really cutting or filling anything major, it's nothing substantial.
You're not bringing any topsoil or anything, or
For lumen seed, but that's,
about how much-ish?
I'm tough to say off the top of my head.
I mean, you're looking at a 4-inch cover over that thing, maybe a couple of trucks, but not a ton.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know the volume, so.
Huh,
Did-
okay, well that's just, it's gonna be set pretty low, then if you're not gonna be raising that for the foundation, how are you gonna protect that house from flooding issues? Because it sits so low, don't you need like six inches on your 10 vertical feet around it to protect the foundation?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm following your question. Do you
Um,
think I should be bringing in more fill for that?
I am confused that you're bringing in so little, but I guess I'll leave that to you.
I think what he's trying to get across that most of this material they used to grade the property which moved around the property itself. It won't be, most of the stuff will be brought in, we'll just get the topsoil, correct? Yeah, everything else just get moved around.
Gonna have to excavate for the foundation, and the foundation, the native soil that's there will be pushed out and spread around and hopefully with a little more level. We walked that property, this week, and this one in question, I think, is up quite high. I don't think, it's up, quite a few feet. The other one is lower, but, just using the native, materials that come from the excavation is a very safe way of doing things. And then, of course, we'll want to have it covered so that there's some vegetation established, so further erosion won't happen.
Answer your question? Yes. Okay. Anybody else?
just.
Ma'am, again, yes.
Kathy T. Bear again, where are the streets on this?
I'm sorry, so
This is Lincoln Street here, that's number 140, and then Wildflower comes through here.
Okay.
So Lincoln Street is, yeah, you can just barely see it there on the bottom left.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does somebody else have their hand raised? Yes, sir.
Phil Staffis, 17 Wildflower.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, let me state right off the bat, I'm in opposition of any of the building, either of the two, but I'll speak to number 10 for a moment.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've surveyed the area at all, but there is a significant dip in the grounds just beyond the street. That said, I don't know how you're going to be able to fill that without disrupting the environment. It doesn't meet the 100-foot, you clearly stated that it does not meet the 100-foot mandate, and so.
Well, most of the, where the house is being built does. It's outside the 100-foot buffer. The one next door, this hearing right now is this house here.
Understood.
The buffer zone comes here. This house is a different story. This house here, the house itself is virtually almost all outside the 100-foot buffer, according to this plan.
And just for clarification, they can build within the 100-foot buffer as long as erosion controls and they reestablish what is there is part of their order of conditions. They just can't build into the wetlands.
So can we get clarity on what it is that they will do to reestablish those?
Reestablish what?
The erosion conditions, as the gentleman just spoke.
So they're proposing erosion control barrier along the backside of where they're working. They're grading out the lawn, there'll be loam and seed on top.
That, if done correctly, should minimize / prevent any erosion of soil into the wetland. Does that answer your question?
It does, but let me continue on.
Mm-hmm.
We rely on green space.
Mm-hmm.
There is very little on Wildflower or Lincoln Street at this point. That small parcel of land actually is where wildlife exists today. We have deer coming out of that area. We have a fox. We have foxes. We had a bear come out just the other day. And because they're building now on on Lincoln, we're forcing that wildlife out. And so I contend that it's just creating a significant situation for the wildlife that is in those woods as we speak. And they're ultimately going to find their way elsewhere, into my home, into the neighbor's home. I believe anybody that's in this room representing or here to talk about these two units, 10 speaking specifically, they're in opposition. So I would hope you would at least take that in consideration as you're considering whether or not to grant the permit. When I visited the town hall and learned a little bit more about the building, I went to the building inspector. They mentioned that there was a 1-foot easement on the sidewalk on Wildflower. And I quote, the building inspector said, "We would never give permit to build and cut into that 1 foot." So how do you get around that 1-foot easement?
I'll handle this. Are you all set with your questions?
For now.
I don't want to interrupt, okay. In terms of the wildlife, I was a forestry and wildlife management major in college. I am with you on that point. However, that is not within our jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction is the Wetlands Protection Act of the state of Massachusetts, making sure that our wetlands are not degraded. Nothing to do with bear, deer, birds, and that is not our purview. Our purview is the wetlands and make sure we're protecting the wetlands. And that's why you're in front of it, why he's in front of us, to show us that these plans, how they plan to protect the wetlands. So our purview has nothing to do with wildlife. I wish it was, but it's not. We have nothing to do
But
with
the
wildlife.
wildlife depends on that wetland.
Agreed, but that's not part of the Wetlands Protection Act. That's not right. I would, sir, have you yet been to planning and zoning yet with this?
We were approved for the A&R subdivision of the lot.
Okay. In terms of the cut, that absolutely has nothing to do with us whatsoever. I'm sorry to say it, but that's.
And there is no sidewalk on that side of the road.
No, there's no sidewalk, but there is a curbing and again, I only can tell you what the building inspector told me. There's a 1-foot easement. So is that not the case?
We have no idea. That has nothing to do with us.
Do you guys have any idea what they mean by the 1-foot easement?
I'm not totally sure.
You might want to look into that then. Make some
The
look
city
into.
did own it, they sold it.
Yeah, I know that was.
They facilitated the sale.
Yeah, I know that was there was an easement at some point, but and it was in the process. I don't know for sure if it's done, a done deal, but again, that would be something zoning and in the building department.
Does anybody else have anything to add about what I said about wetlands?
No.
Okay.
I was gonna say, since they now own the property, they're allowed to build, and as far as our purview and our review of it, they are outside the wetlands. They are gonna put up controls so that erosion doesn't go into the wetlands. It's a bummer that it is, habitat for wildlife, but like Chuck said, unfortunately, it's beyond our purview.
Theoretically though, by protecting the wetland, you will protect the existing habitat for the wildlife that's there to a certain extent. Obviously, there will be some loss, but that the intent of the commission is to protect that wetland and in doing so provide for the existing habitat that's there.
Did you have anything else?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So 310 CMR 13 of the Inland Wetland orders. Section 13.04 preliminary informational meeting. I assume that this is a preliminary informational meeting. I received no other announcement of this meeting.
Well, this is the public hearing, and it was advertised, which is why you're here.
Understood. Well, the preliminary meeting, State of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act requires that materials for display for inspection, that there be programmatic line and symbols of orthophoto maps, aerial photography, assessor's maps, a list of all persons who have been given the preliminary informational meeting and public hearings. I don't see any of that, so from my perspective, they have not lived up to the requirements.
Okay. So can you address that question?
Sure, so a lot of the material you were mentioning is part of the NOI process, so.
And the NOI is the notice of intent, which is why they're here.
And so it was published in the newspaper about this meeting, and we did send out certified mailings to abutters in the area from a list that we obtained from the assessor's office. So.
What about the ortho and the other things?
Ortho is, yeah, we have an ortho within our notice of intent package. I'm sorry, what else were you looking for?
Aerial photography,
We have photography of when we had the wetland delineated by our wetland scientists.
Would that full package be available for them to take a look at?
Yes, it's public record.
Yeah, any materials that applicants submit with the NOI is free to be viewed at the office here.
Is that the best way to do it, for them to stop and see you?
Yeah, you give me a call, email, anything like that, and arrange a time, or just pop in whenever. If I'm in the office, I'd be more than happy to show you.
technically, they're supposed to be made available at the preliminary meeting, this meeting.
Okay.
I mean, they're, you have everything, yeah.
So this is, just want me to pass around, is that the best way to do it?
If you like. Sure. Before we get to that, I see another question. State your name and address, please, sir, on the back.
Dr. Albert, 11 Wildflower Road. So this is going to be the same question I had for both of them. It's about water drainage. So this whole area of Wildflower and Lincoln Street has very, I would say, serious water drainage issues. We have standing water in our backyard during the spring and summer.
Is your house on this map?
I'm on 11 Wildflower Road, right across the street.
Right across the street, okay.
And then also down on Lincoln Street, just off the picture there, every time, even today was a great evidence of it. When it rains, there's standing water and flooding. So there's already water drainage issues because we have saturated land. And I want to know how the foundations that are going to be built and how the disruptions that's happening with this is going to improve the water drainage or not disturb the water drainage, because we already have flooding issues that's already causing road erosion on Lincoln Ave. We have standing water issues on our property, and I'm sure there are other people here that have water drainage issues in the neighborhood as well.
To you. Ma'am, one question at a time.
So it's.
So how are you gonna deal with the already problematic drainage?
Sure, so we propose foundation drains, and it's part of the stormwater protection, or the stormwater, Massachusetts stormwater bylaw. It's, you're only required to provide treatment if you're over 4 houses.
So is it then your assertion that you were not exacerbating any drainage issues?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're, Larry, from
Hold on, let it finish.
Larry, just elaborate on that. So basically,
If you state your name.
Larry Green from McCarty Engineering. So basically, the way that site flows topographically is basically, if you look at the plan, everything kind of flows toward that kind of bluish green line in the back.
Mhm.
Basically, our drainage pattern is going to basically mimic that pattern. So majority of the water that's flowing there now is going to continue with that flow going. So we're not impeding any flowing across the street.
But by adding a foundation, right, you're not disrupting already saturated water that's saturated dirt that's already sitting there. Like, that water is already saturated and you're removing it. So just because you have some water flow issues, the ground itself is actually acting as a sponge and absorbing water that's sitting there.
But if it meets the requirements of the Massachusetts stormwater regulations, then, there's not a whole lot to do about it. If it meets those regulations, those are why those regulations were written, and that's why they're in place.
Is it 4 or more, or specifically more than 4?
Yeah.
it's more than 4. Any single-family house, there's a few exemptions, but single-family homes are exempt because they're, relatively smaller footprint. They don't typically add a ton of impervious surface. We're not saying that doesn't change anything, but because of those reasons, it's exempt from the stormwater handbook, best management practices.
I mean, Doctor, do you have any suggestions relative to that issue?
No, I'm just kind of frustrated because all I have right now is just someone's word saying, yeah, well, we've taken it into account and it's not gonna affect anything. Like, I have nothing that's been presented to us so far that demonstrates otherwise. And we already have serious flooding issues. Just today, you guys were talking about it was only a 30-minute rainstorm. There was standing water on Lincoln Street.
And
Standing water.
What would give you a greater assurance?
I wanna see some evidence that there's gonna be no disruption or there is maybe even improved water flow. We already have standing water issues in that area in the neighborhood. Like
Okay, you've already just said it 3 times. Thank you. In your submission, your NOI submission, are there calculations in there that would maybe answer some of his questions? But basically, I'm wondering if you could look at the package, if you even know what you might be looking at, that might at least address the drainage of the area.
So as part of the NOI, I think we only have to provide the area within the buffer. So.
Okay.
To answer this, but there's not gonna be a calculation for that.
Sir, just in terms of these proposals, they all come to us like this, and they state that they have done the necessary calculations per the relevant regulations and bylaws. And then that's all we have to go by, site visits and what they're telling us. So it's something that if they've done their work and done their calculations and their job correctly, there should be minimal, if any, impact on the drainage in the area.
A house and garage dwelling is not a very large impact, like you said, based on impervious area. It doesn't change much of the ground seepage and water.
I mean, this is not a very large area to begin with, so, I mean, proportionally, it's gonna be a significant portion of land disturbed.
Okay.
What happens to the water that hits the roof of the driveway?
At this time, they're just roof leaders.
What was the answer?
Roof leaders are just.
Going outside the street
Oh, downspouts, okay.
Yeah, downspouts.
Okay.
to where?
Well, yeah, which then leads to where?
Storm system or the
Is that the street into the foundation draining out?
Correct,
Okay. And drains to where? To all back towards the wetlands?
yes.
Okay. All right, so basically, sir, what he's saying is that any runoff from the roof will hit the downspout to the foundation drain and then go out to the wetland.
Not into the street.
Not
Right,
into the street.
but the reason we have flooding on the street is because the ground is already completely saturated, right? The ground cannot absorb any more of the water. That is why it is now spilling out into the streets and into the other.
And it's expected, based on what he's telling me, that this will not exacerbate that problem. So we can go on. Ma'am, behind the gentleman, I heard your hand was up a few minutes ago. State your name and address, please.
Barbara Courage,
Okay,
110 Lincoln Street.
okay.
We are in front of this massive swamp on Lincoln Street. And the gentleman in the back is absolutely correct.
Mhm.
Today it was total flooding on this street. And every time it rains, the water has nowhere to go. It's
Okay.
not draining because of the elevation of the land.
Okay.
And my second question, what is the access to these homes that are being proposed on Wildflower?
Where's the access to?
Yeah, how
Question for you.
how are these homes gonna be accessed?
driveways?
Yeah, we're
Driveways
proposing,
off of,
off of
Wildflower?
Wildflower, that's correct.
thank you.
Okay. Ma'am, in the corner. Yes.
Yeah, Kathleen Woodward, 25 Tina Street.
25 West Street?
Tina,
Okay.
these lots are both heavily wooded.
Mm-hmm.
And taking away the trees and planting grass in replacement already removes a lot of water that can be absorbed by trees. And water does not get absorbed by lawn or just some small plantings. Do you have a landscaping plan to put in enough trees to mitigate the water that used to be absorbed?
There's no landscape plan at this time.
Sure, in back, oh, okay, yes.
Dr. Albert, Wildflower again. I have a question about the trees that are gonna be removed. Alright, so an average oak tree can cycle through about 50 pounds of CO2 per year. I wanna know, is there any plans to offset this, even amongst the conservation committee? Right, are there plans that for all the trees that are gonna be cut down here, is there gonna be some sort of offset plan for what's happening with the CO2?
Greenhouse gases and carbon offsets, there's nothing in our, purview that governs, CO2 or any kind of,
And I don't think it's not only within our purview, but very few construction projects take that into consideration anywhere in the state, unfortunately.
I'm just curious.
No, I understand what you're saying, it's a very valid point, but unfortunately, you know.
Everyone's saying not my job.
Well,
but we have a limited scope, and that's the wetlands. So,
our mandate, our charge is by state law.
Right.
Okay, so we don't make decisions just based on the way we feel, or whatever. Make decisions based on chapter 131 of the Wetlands Protection Act. And we are charged by the state, by DEP to follow that. And hopefully we do.
a gentleman that had his hand up for a while.
Yep, it's Jeremy Votor, 23 Wildflower.
Mhm.
So, you just said that you're gonna slope everything towards the existing wetlands, and
Correct.
it's gonna continue its flow. So I am directly across the street from the corner. All that wetlands hits a culvert, goes under the street, and dumps out between my property and my other neighbor's property. I moved in 8 years ago, every year it's gotten more wet. Now we're gonna be adding, you know,
So you're what here?
no other corner.
Oh, down here?
Yeah, so that, the way, the natural flow of it, it heads east down, you know, almost parallel to the road kinda, and then it cuts south.
Down to the bottom right.
Correct,
On that map.
correct, that's where it heads. Every year in the past 8 years, it's been more wet. I got trees already falling down, so what's gonna happen, is you're gonna put a pond in my backyard, on my property. I haven't had any basement flooding, I don't wanna have basement flooding. So what's gonna stop that?
So,
Could I just, Lacey, we went up and did a site survey the other day, and there is.
By that it means a sidewalk.
Oh, sidewalk,
Sure.
to go out there and review it. And there are catch basins on there. If you're having problems now, have you talked?
So
to
those
the
catch
DEP?
basins drain directly,
To the
those
property.
catch basins
But
drain
were you
directly.
talking about water backing up into the road as well? That's what you were talking about?
Yeah, it's not
There
backing
might
up
be some
here.
issues there.
But those catch basins drain right into the,
into
it
the goal.
doesn't like hit some thing and send it somewhere, it dumps right into the woods right there.
Right, but you know, if naturally occurring rain is going to saturate the soil the same way it is today, whether it's coming off a roof or whether it's being absorbed on that hill, it's gonna flow down. Water flows downhill, doesn't it? It flows downhill.
This is
Very
really
friendly.
But when you're removing
Hold on.
One at a
One at a
time,
time.
Yeah.
So,
So-
I was gonna say, to answer your question, based on the contours we see, the elevation of existing ground, that water already flows to those areas.
Correct.
We're not adding water, it's already flowing that direction.
No, but removing the trees and adding a roof and all that stuff that doesn't absorb water anymore.
But we've already addressed the fact that the roof runoff will go into storm drains and go out to the wetland.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying,
that's
that's
gonna
the issue,
dump
you're adding more volume to the wetland is what I'm saying.
Really adding more.
No, we're not.
But you're preventing that land from.
Man, this is getting a little out of hand. We've got one person talking, I'm trying to answer his question. Please. Sir, so it's already drained, the stuff is already drained to the wetlands. And any runoff from the roof will be captured and drained to the wetlands as well. The only thing let me ask you this, the drainage from this driveway, the small little driveway, do you have any calculation on how much runoff will from that and where it'll go? Will that go to the street and then down?
Yeah, it's pretty short the street at the time.
Okay. Okay. With your hand raised, yes, please.
So the wetland delineation was done before they began development on Lincoln Street.
Mhm.
They've already taken down a bunch of trees, brought in a bunch of soil, that neither of those properties are gonna be absorbing water the way that they have been before,
Okay.
because of that vegetation removal.
Mhm.
So moving ahead with these developments, before seeing how the developments that already are happening are changing the wetland delineation, feels a little unnecessarily hasty.
Well, what was that last part?
It's unnecessarily hasty. You're
Hasty.
using outdated wetland delineation, is what I'm saying.
When was this wetland delineated?
Prior to all the trees.
Well, I asked him.
October 28th, 2021.
So,
Yes.
last fall.
Yes, and how many trees on Wildflower and Lincoln have been removed since then?
I don't have the number to answer that.
And your point of the question is what, ma'am? Trying to get to it.
That the wetland next year is going to be bigger, the amount of saturation in standing water next year and where that buffer should be next year is gonna be different than where it was last year.
We can only deal with what we have in front of us right now.
Well, you can't delay this to use appropriate information.
That is appropriate information.
That is outdated information.
Well, he's meeting the requirements of what he needs to prove, what he needs to show. So,
And there's,
we.
Could I ask a question though? Where, when we walked out there, I didn't notice any trees cut down on these lots.
You're talking about
No, but not on those
Lincoln.
lots, I'm talking about the upgradient lots, the lots that drain onto that,
Up further to the left?
yes.
Two on Lincoln, there we go.
So are those homes in at this point?
One is.
What is?
Okay.
Remember we drove by and they had it, I said, yes, they put it in, like a couple of days, you know.
Right.
That's the one you're talking about, next
Correct.
door to, yes.
Yeah, the development on those lands is going to change the drainage pattern, the amount of water that that land can absorb, and it's going to change the wetland delineation.
What was your name again, I'm sorry?
I'm John.
John. I hope you're taking mental and or physical notes here. My guess is we're gonna have to continue this. And that you probably wanna come back and try to address some of these concerns. In terms of, I mean, I think they do have some valid points here. I would encourage you to write some of these down. And like I said, if when we continue this, to come back and try to address those as best you can.
So,
I think there are some legitimate concerns that there's only so much we can answer for them. So I think you might wanna try to address these.
just my one question is that
Shoot.
she sounds like she's talking about the lot 1 on Lincoln Street.
Yeah.
Which is outside of the buffer.
No, understood. Better way to put this. We want to make sure that, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say. But, do you think there's gonna be?
That everything is addressed appropriately,
Yeah.
concerns or?
What's within our jurisdiction that hasn't been addressed? Some of these questions do not relate to our jurisdiction. We just don't have the authority. So what is it
This is
that's
about protecting
missing?
wetlands specifically.
Understood, but what's happening?
We have
1 feet away.
We much have to make sure the water gets there as opposed to it doesn't. So it doesn't dry out, the water's still going to the wetland. It is
Yes.
effectively still protected in that way. The same amount of water is still gonna rain down.
Yes, but less of it can be absorbed on the lots that are being constructed on.
if trees are removed, more can be absorbed into the ground at a slower pace, so that by the time it gets to the wetlands, it'll take less time to get there.
Are you familiar with how the Dust Bowl happened?
Oh, that has nothing to do with, ma'am.
That has to do-
No, please don't bring up the Dust Bowl. This, that was millions of acres of irresponsible farming. This is not millions of acres. This is a small lot with what we think in our purview is a fairly minimal impact. So please don't conflate this with the Dust Bowl. I think that might be a little unnecessary.
That was a dramatizing example, but vegetation takes up a lot of water, and saying that it doesn't is ridiculous.
And I just wanna, make a point, I hear everyone's concerns here, and, a lot of what people are worried about is, the increasing impervious areas, more or less. We're not saying that is not changing the pervious nature of the land there. We're not saying it's gonna be exactly the same as before. Forests are gonna absorb more water than lawn. Lawns are gonna absorb more soil than concrete. But as others on the commission have stated, we're acting within the scope of the law and within our jurisdiction. If they're gonna be building within the wetlands, we have a lot more authority over, you know, what they can and can't do, what they're gonna have to replicate with that. When it's within the buffer, we still have the authority to review it and impose special conditions. But they also have a right to build on their property, and, you know, it's, as far as within the scope of the Wetlands Protection Act, that's all that we can really act on here.
Looking to
Sure.
Final comment for me, Phil Stout at 17 Wildflower Road. We've heard that you have limited authority, you can't control anything related to wildlife, you can't control anything related to carbon emissions. What you can control, based on the will of the people here, based on the opposition that you've heard, is to deny this permit. That's what you can control, and I would ask that you take that serious request and deny this permit. Whether we come back again, we will come back in force, or whether you can take action today, I would ask that you deny this permit.
Thank you. So, ma'am, you had your hand up? I'll open with one, Nick.
Yeah, okay, I'll speak on that. So you're absolutely right, we could either approve or deny this at this time. If we deny it, it's very likely that they would appeal it to Mass DEP, and then Mass DEP would more than likely approve it as it is. If we approve it, you as a group of 10 citizens have a right to also appeal that. So if we approve it, if there's 10 citizens here, or 10 people that are concerned about this project that want to appeal that, you have that ability. But I'm just saying, as far as our jurisdiction goes, like, we could deny this, but it's very likely gonna get kicked up to Mass DEP. You have fully the right to appeal it and bring up any concerns that you have with Mass DEP at that time.
And how will we be notified if indeed you do approve in the appeal process? How will we know that you've approved it?
So I have to send this, we issue the order of conditions, I send it out to the applicant and to Mass DEP, and then Mass DEP is the one that it'll be on record with them. Like I can get.
You know by the vote.
Yeah, the vote, yeah, you'll know. That's what I was gonna
We would-
yeah, unless this hearing gets continued, we will take a vote on it as a commission tonight, yay or nay. And so depending on how the vote goes, you will know, again, unless it gets continued.
And if it does get continued, if anyone's not aware, all of these meetings get recorded, they're usually posted the next day or two after. So if it does get continued, you're not able to attend, you can find out the vote that way.
And ma'am in the corner.
Yes, Melissa Votor, 23 Wildflower Road. I know that you walked around the property. Did you happen to go across the street for where the houses were going to be built? I'm concerned of the wetlands getting wetter, and like my husband was saying, of the trees falling and damage being caused that way on my property. So do you have jurisdiction of the wetlands getting wetter because of all of this water that's going to be flowing from these properties into our side yard, basically?
Not until it becomes a wetland.
Not when it comes to
Yeah.
wetlands. So we just deal with more dead trees falling and damage being caused. If I have a pool, what fell in our pool, you know? I mean, you have no jurisdiction over wetlands getting wetter on my side property.
No, with climate change, we're gonna get wetter anyway.
You know,
If that helps, I think it does.
Really?
No,
Good, let's keep developing, death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Rich, you have something? No.
Did you happen to walk across the street and notice where the flow of water went?
We did not walk across the street.
No, we don't,
No, a couple
we
days
don't
ago.
walk on people's property, we're not allowed to just walk on people's
Well, it's
property.
conservation land owners.
It's city-owned
We
land.
walked within the determined where we thought the wetlands were delineated, we were down in there,
But it just affects that wetlands also, and it's city property where most of it's owned, but it abuts our house and our property.
and where is that on this map?
23, wow, yeah, exactly.
Down there.
And sir, on the door, did you have a question?
Yeah, so,
State your name and address, please.
my name is Casey Tyler. I just bought a house, 88 Burgess Avenue. One of the things I look at, I work as a scientist, one of the things that I look at is right across the street at 92, Bernice Avenue, as you are going to increase the amount of water runoff from that land, the erosion of that land down by his or her driveway is going to increase. I saw this when I used to live in South Hadley for 16 years, as they put up a similar development and pretty much similar situation.
Are we getting to how this impacts this property?
Yeah, it's with building that property, you're going to increase that runoff. You're going to increase a lot of the erosion downstream towards Bernice Avenue, and as you go out there, and it's. I mean, I live right across the street from 88 or 92 rather, and as that one gets eroded, it's going to hit the road, and that's going to start affecting all that. I was wondering if you guys had taken that into account with the increased runoff.
That's a question for you, sir.
It's the same on stormwater map.
Well, that's a question for the gentleman who did the erosion calculations.
Sure, so like I said, we're gonna be using straw wattles and silt fences, and then we're gonna be stabilizing.
I think he's talking about post-development.
Yeah, lines,
We're talking about the years to come.
yes, we're gonna loom and seed.
But what's your calculation show in terms of pre-development and post-development in terms of runoff from the property?
So,
Well,
As it-
sure, the volume will be the same.
Thank you.
That's right, I need the question answered. Okay, so their calculations show that the volume running off from that property, pre-development, post-development, are virtually the same.
There's a slight increase in rate, but the volume will be the same.
Yes. It's the same square area. It's linear. It's a question of how fast it gets away. So part of this will then be piped basically through gutters and sent down toward the wetland, where it'll get to, infiltrate through the grass and so on, and then moisturize that area.
But it's not infiltrating. It's already running onto other people's property and stagnating and causing problems.
And they just flat out said that it's gonna increase the rate at which the water is running off and collecting.
Which increases erosion.
The rate is very
Change the
important.
rate.
They said increase, so you go from a brook to a river. Yeah.
Did you care to address the misconception in terms here, sir?
There is a slight increase in rate.
But you said something about volume as well before.
Volume is the same. The
Okay.
amount of water falls on that piece of property
Okay.
today and tomorrow.
All right.
Nobody's arguing that the different volume is gonna fall from the sky. We're talking about the impact, about where that water comes off, how fast it comes off, and how it's already a bad situation there. So increasing the rate at which water is being pumped off that property into this problem area already is gonna impact not just that property, but it's gonna impact all the other properties around it, including the wetlands, but also all of the properties abutting the wetlands. Like that's our collective point right now, is that it's not just about this individual house and the individual little contribution to the wetland.
I think we owe it to you to take a good, strong look with your help. The commission comes back up, look at upstream and downstream, and take a good, close look and absorb your opinions, because they're obviously very, very, very strong. And we did not, I'll be the first to admit, we walked the area of development. We did not walk upstream and downstream. I'd also suggest a call to the DPW about if there's any water in the road, the catch basins may have an issue. There's some DPW issues there as well, but I think we owe it to the neighborhood to walk upstream, downstream. If you'll give us your names and some times when we could meet, I think that would be a good thing to do.
Honestly, a rainy day is the best time to see when the impact is the worst. Like just a regular rainy day, you get to see the exact.
So you wanna wait another 6 months?
Yes, hold on.
I'm not proposing that we.
Sure, hold on. There's only so long that we can't go out to these properties at each type of weather event.
Correct.
So, but what we can do is, as Michael is stating, is then we go out and look at the area, the bigger area instead of just the property. So I have no problem with that at all, but we can't keep continuing this thing just to look at it in different types of weather.
No, I get it, I'm just making a point that like even today, you would have seen all the things that we're talking about.
We'll try to do that within the next 2 weeks, so that we can
Right.
continue at the next meeting.
We'll definitely take another.
I was gonna ask to check
what he said, I was just gonna say.
Ma'am, could you state your name and address, please?
Sorry, my name's Isabel Winslow, 65 Wildflower. I was going to suggest that, that you walk that area and take a better look, like you just mentioned.
We will, and,
That's all I was gonna say.
I'll pass around, if I could, pass around a notebook, and you can put your names and addresses down and phone numbers, and we'll call you and schedule, and we can come out.
I'm under the impression that some of these concerns about water quantity fall more under DPW's
It's entirely possible, yeah.
regime
Yeah.
as far as working on this. I personally did not see adverse impact on the wetland health itself. Whether that's gonna impact other stormwater downstream,
Yeah.
not necessarily.
And we were out there, and actually the ferns were dying, so there wasn't a whole lot of water saturation in there. I mean, it was even in the shade, the ferns are drying because it's so dry right now.
But,
Drought, that's, yeah.
So we'll definitely go out again as a commission, do another sidewalk, but for my part, I have a little more flexibility, I'm only one person, so if we do get another heavy rain event, I'll try and get out there as soon as I can after that to really get a good look at it, so.
yes.
So according to the National Wetland Inventory, the specific wetland is identified as substrate that is saturated at or near the surface through the growing season, but surface water is typically absent later in the season. So even though we might have some stagnant water after heavy rainfalls, if you go out and inspect this in the fall, you're not going to have a full scope of what this is capable of doing. With the development upstream, with how the wetland's gonna change, that what I said was outdated information on delineation, and then doing this in the fall instead of the spring, you're not gonna have the information you need to make the appropriate judgment.
Ma'am?
Joe, can I respond to that briefly?
Sure.
Just to be sure, to understand that there was no change or not in that delineation, we'd need more than somebody just saying so. We'd actually need a counter delineation from some other firm that's
Well, don't you
professional
think
and
it's
organized.
worth it to wait a year? Don't you think that the information I'm
We
saying,
can't wait on
Yeah.
decisions
Right.
like this.
you can't
We have-
deny it
no,
and say
we have-
that you
we have
need
a
additional
timeline.
information?
We can, but we would be denying development all over this town if we were to do so.
But
not
this is
necessarily
directly
within our
upstream,
authority.
this is directly
We're gonna
upgrading.
come out and take a look at it and listen more, okay?
It's okay.
Best we can do tonight.
Ma'am.
Kathy Weber, 45 Tina Street. I've been a resident near this neighborhood for 28 years. Walk my dog regularly around Wildflower. In the spring, this is downright bog. It is wet as you can get. I mean, I always thought it was unbuildable land because it was so boggy in the springtime.
Okay.
So it surprises me that there's even a proposal on the table.
Well, they're not gonna be adding more water to it.
But why would you build on bog? Wouldn't those homeowners be a little pissed that they're gonna have flooding in their basements? I mean,
Well, this-
in the springtime, that is just
Right.
wet as
It's
you
not
can
even
get.
And just to be fair, I'm not saying what you're saying is not true, because I'm sure, 100% sure it is true. But this is a buildable lot, according to the city regulations. So they're coming in front of us with a proposal to build on that buildable lot. So it's boggy, I don't deny that, but it is a buildable lot, so. And so anyway, sir.
Yes, Brian McNally, 164 Lincoln Street.
Okay.
I am right in the corner there. When these driveways are gonna be put in there, I'm gonna basically have a flume come right at my property. I wanna know where's that water, how it can be diverted away from my property going downhill.
What happens to it when it hits the street?
These driveways, so where are you?
Right there, right at your point.
Right here?
Both of those homes are gonna be coming right toward my property.
Okay, all right, can you address that?
There is a two catch basins right in the road.
What happens if we
Both
get
sides of the
deluge?
road.
A deluge like today, all that water is gonna go streaming down those driveways right at my property. What are you gonna do for that?
Direct into the road, it's just gonna be the driveway.
No, that's not.
We get some heavy rains, like you said, global warming's coming. I'm looking ahead here.
You already have.
Ma'am, name and address, please.
Lisa McNally, 164 Lincoln Street. You already have, Officer Gallant's home that they put a quasi-sewer in front of his property. It fills up because it doesn't go anywhere. and it floods that part of Lincoln Street.
What do you mean by a quasi sewer?
It's not, it doesn't go
It's not
anywhere.
connected to
It's
the
not
sewer system.
connected.
What is it?
There's 4 storm drains at a particular property
So,
that everyone's talking about today, that there was stagnant water on Lincoln Street. Every time it rains, there's stagnant water on.
So
Lincoln Street. I'm not
those
sure
catch basins aren't working?
At all.
That's what happened.
Yeah, we've got some DPW issues
I just
too.
wanted to.
They've been replaced within the last 8 years.
Just, have you talked to the DPW? Not trying to push anything away, have you talked to the DPW?
It's not my property, it doesn't affect my property.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that's what she's referring to.
Okay.
For
We have
storm drains.
You have?
We have
Have they come out?
There was no answer.
Well,
No answer from the
It
DPW?
cannot because it's owned privately by this individual that lives on Lincoln Street. He refuses to cooperate with the city. But back to my question, I was not answered about the driveway,
Okay.
water.
Answer as best you can.
So we are directing it towards the road.
Which will come right at me.
No, so he's answered your question. It may not be the answer you want, but he did answer your question.
Follow-up question, what can he do about it?
That's not in our jurisdiction. It's water not within our jurisdiction that ended at the 100-foot line.
Based on the surface area of the driveway, we don't anticipate some kind of sheeting across. Is there berm along the side of the road there?
Yeah.
So that should channel the
Curb,
water.
curb. Yeah, okay, we'll hit the curb. and
It
go down
should
the
channel
slope.
Not from his driveway.
This driveway is wide.
There's 2 driveways going in there.
As it comes out of the driveway, it'll then go down the road to the catch basin.
If they're
Depending
working.
on the volume and flow, correct?
Well, the volume,
Anything can.
the volume won't be increasing because there's only a certain amount of rain that's gonna fall anyway. They're simply saying that the rate may increase, but it should be captured. If the catch basins aren't working, then somebody's gotta go to the DPW because that's, we don't, here as a commission clean storm drains. Apparently that needs to be addressed
We would if we.
somehow.
I am gonna follow up with DPW on all these concerns, just so everyone's aware,
Okay. So, ma'am,
So for the future homeowners on these plots, since we are we're building into the 100-foot buffer, is there going to be a new buffer established? Or are they gonna have to file a notice of intent if they ever wanna do work in their backyard?
Yes.
yes.
So there are some minor exemptions for, minor activities, like certain types of fences and things like that, but beyond that, anything that they would need to file for before this, they'll still have to file for if they're within that 100-foot buffer.
Yeah, hold on a second. Does this property go all the way back out here? Is that this?
That's the property, that bold line, that is the property line.
Okay, all right. And the 100-foot buffer again is
That other black dash line?
that one right there.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right.
So they
Yeah,
can't
so for
do
example,
anything.
if they wanted to put a pool in there,
Uh-huh.
they'd have to come before us.
They could put a pool, they just have to come before us.
Are they gonna be notified of that when they buy the house?
That's a
Let me
question
guess.
for a realtor.
Now you're Jersey.
No, I don't know.
That's a realtor.
I don't know.
And that one makes sense.
But
But,
we, it's just in the past couple of months, we've had a couple people come before us because they didn't know about the Wetlands Protection Act and somebody saw them doing what they were doing and reported it to us. So they then had to come in front of us.
So would that be the developers and the seller's job to make sure that they are aware of the restrictions on their property?
Ethically, they should let people know. I'm not sure if they're, honestly, I'm not sure if they're required
On all this.
to do that.
It's a restriction on all properties within that buffer distance of a wetland or surface water line. It's throughout the state. And a lot of people don't have to know about the law.
Should there be?
Hold on a second. Sir,
Within the buffer.
Mark, how many 45 to Wildflower Road? You say the buffer line, and I see that,
yeah, there's,
jagged.
this is the wetland line,
Okay,
and then 100 feet from that is this line right here.
okay. So they can't build within that line, correct?
No,
Without
that's not
the
correct.
permits.
Without a permit, and without demonstrating to us that they will be making sure that as during that construction of that pool, for example, that they are making sure that there's no erosion into the wetlands.
So how far beyond that buffer line are they able to clear? wouldn't they be starting?
Oh, here, you mean?
No, that whole green spot, the brown, I'm assuming the brown spot's the foundation.
Yes, that's the house, yeah.
Okay, and the buffer line is actually coming right to the corner, right corner.
Correct, yeah, right there, yeah.
However, the green goes well out into
Right.
the wetland.
Right.
So they're
Into
gonna,
the buffer.
they're not gonna
Into
interfere
the buffer area, yeah, into the 100-foot buffer, yes.
so they can clear that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
So they can
yeah,
clear
well,
that?
this green area is lawn, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
That's-
so they're gonna be putting the lawn in here, yes. Yeah.
To do that,
That's the plan.
If you're not importing soil, how do you not think that's gonna be just a boggy lawn?
Well, like you said, we're taking the native soil that's there and moving it to level it out. And it's pitched down how we graded it.
They're bringing it towards there, yeah, so they're expecting there not to be any pooling water on the lawn.
Right.
Yeah, it's expected to drain down, what's the
The way it
slope?
drains today.
I believe it's 3 to 1.
Okay, basically, was it 3 feet horizontally for every foot vertical? So, and which is a pretty substantial grade. And also, their water will flow towards the wetlands and away from the house.
So are they
And away
gonna
from the
be
road.
taking a bunch of soil from the back of the property and bringing it
They're
up?
gonna move it around, and they will bring some, small amount of soil as to plant to get the seed, the grass seed to germinate. Yes.
Sorry.
We're gonna be really good friends here tonight, aren't we?
Is the soil that is being imported, are they required to like run any kind of analytical on it to compare it to residential standards? S1 GW1 standards?
Don't believe so, no, it's, in terms of its ability to handle water?
No, just importing the soil in general, like,
You're talking about-
are they,
you're
are
talking
they
about
gonna prove it's
contaminated
clean?
soil.
Yes, are they going to prove that it's clean?
I would imagine that, I don't, what you typically do in those situations? Do you test the soils to make sure they're contaminated with PFAS or anything?
Well, yeah, we buy it from, we purchase locally from
Like a landscape.
a supplier, sorry.
Supply house.
Supply house. And I'm sure they're required
They are
to do
required.
tests.
Yeah. So it would be the seller of the soil, the company that's selling the topsoil, or loam, whatever you wanna call it, to make sure that what they're selling is not contaminated with
Yeah, with metals,
recreate metals.
PCBs,
Correct.
or PAHs, or
Correct.
PFAS, especially considering the new EPA health and safety standards. They're in parts per quadrillion now.
Which laboratories do not measure to.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially considering that the delineation outline of that wetland is likely going to increase next year, and it'll be even closer than 35 feet. And if you're saying that it's still gonna be infiltrating,
Where'd you get the 35 feet?
I'm pretty sure he said it.
He said that's the closest.
Oh, okay,
contour
okay,
that the range is
I forgot
gonna
about that, I forgot about that, okay.
Can you explain how the delineation is gonna change?
Because of the gradient development, there's going to be more water running down into the wetlands.
And what
Because
makes,
there's
what
fewer-
makes a delineation? How do they determine the delineation?
Well, I'm not a wetland specialist, but they go out and flag, I believe, the areas where the ground is identified to be saturated. And I think they mark out the edges that way. Again, not a wetland specialist.
Yeah, it's typically done either by soil type, or by the vegetation growing on it. So you can still, like for this summer we've had, you can still map a wetland, even though the soil is dry as a bone, based on the plants that are growing on it. So there are a variety of ways to map the wetland, not just by standing water.
Can't find plants now.
So you don't think that increased runoff into this area would promote the growth of wetland plants or collect more of the grain size that is associated with wetlands, assuming that's still.
So, no,
Deal with the future.
Yeah.
so yeah, we can't say, I mean, how things are gonna, we can't assume they're gonna change or not change one way or the other. No one's saying that wetlands don't grow and shrink and the boundaries change. As far as your earlier question about the flagging, timing, and all that, we want an up-to-date flagging, but we can't request that it's like a week out from construction. You know, it was a few months ago, it was almost a year ago, but that's still a relatively soon enough for them
And
to.
probably
yeah.
wetter than it is now.
Yeah.
Last fall was considerably wetter than it is now.
But so much has changed directly up gradient, you would think that that would be a relevant piece in this calculation for you guys.
As Nick said, you know, we can't predict the future. We can
Well, you don't have to predict the future, because the development already happened, you just have to wait to see.
But the people, and I'm defending anybody here, but the people, the developer, they haven't developed a lot. And to have to say, well, we need to wait a year and see what happens, we can't do that to them. They need a decision on whether they can build this. I'm not saying they need it right this second, but to have them wait, make them wait a year.
The one thing that you have jurisdiction over is the wetlands.
But-
Why won't you take the effort to protect them?
They're coming in front of us, and it is up to us to give them a decision in a reasonable time frame. And waiting a year is, in our opinion, is not a reasonable time frame. Because we can't predict what these wetlands are gonna do in the future. And this is the city of saying we can is a fallacy. What we can do is based on their plan, their calculations, and our knowledge of the Wetlands Protection Act and theirs as well, to make decisions based on what we have in front of us.
Yeah, there's no legal provision
And the
in 131 that allows us to wait for a year just to see what's gonna happen, unfortunately.
And the Wetland Protection Act does actually require us to do this in a timely manner, so as not to put an undue burden. Because if we did drag our feet on this for too long, and the applicant thought that, you know, we were doing so unduly, they could appeal to Mass DEP and say, you know, they're taking way too long on this, like, yeah, we gotta get a decision on this. So.
Sir in the green shirt.
Hello.
Or aqua,
Casimir
whatever,
Quinlan.
teal.
Yeah, well, it's a flavor of green. Casimir Quinlan, 140 Lincoln. I just have a kind of a quick question on the rate of flow of the water. Is it calculated lot by lot? Was there any account taken into like that rate increase over the total two? I know the two in the buffer, but what about the other two that are on Lincoln? Was there any, or is it just lot by lot where you're taking like each house and then calculating just that increased rate of drainage?
So I believe Leominster requires a stormwater permit through the DPW unless you're going to conservation for an NOI. So the other lots 1 and 2, or is it, yeah, the other lots outside of conservation's jurisdiction, stormwater permits have been filed.
Yeah.
And now we're here today to discuss these 2 lots.
Okay.
In your assessment of those upgradient properties, with the drainage off those, to your knowledge, is that drainage going on to these downgradient properties? Specifically lot 2, the one on the corner.
Is it going from that property to this one directly?
Yes.
Will it have an effect on this property? Yeah.
I would say no. I'm trying to remember, it was a little while ago when we submitted those plans, but I believe there was, dry wells, but I could be wrong, I have to double check on that.
Okay. Sir?
Phil Staff, the 17 Wildflower Road. Assuming you choose to deny the permit, you mentioned that they could appeal to the DP. And what would be the next possible step for the owners of the homes in the area? Could we then go before the DP and present our case, or?
I believe so, yes, yeah. And I believe you could even appeal.
And as a voters.
Yeah, as a vote, you could appeal to the
The
DEP.
commission has to make a decision on it first before it's appealed by the general public.
Right.
If I could ask another question, assuming you do approve, what restrictions can you place on the contractors? For example, would they start working at 5 in the morning, or could you limit the construction period and certain? No, not your jurisdiction.
That's our jurisdiction.
I got it.
It's 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
That's
That's
what
why
Monday.
we should their house at 7 o'clock.
We have a daughter who's a nurse in the hospital, and she works 3rd shift, and, I know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be people of every truck coming through, and trees being cut down, and the disruption is just gonna be unbearable.
Stephanie Quinlan, 140 Lincoln. So I know this is out of your jurisdiction, starting with that.
Okay.
But I asked you to consider. So I'm not sure what the current population density of this area is, but I am assuming it's gotta be getting close to the zoning designated maximum density. Like traveling on Main Street down to Route 2, you can sit there for 3 light cycles trying to get out. Like, it is packed.
Agreed. I live not too far from the area myself. I'm avoiding Route 13 right now. I don't avoid, I just come in here. I went back roads. But a lot of the traffic has nothing to do with that neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot of that's cutting through from Fitchburg, or I used to live in Acme and come back that
But
way.
you're still, there's already 2 new families, right, average
But
2
man,
houses
that
each in this
absolutely nothing to do with this.
I
I would say if you guys go to the, I mentioned this to somebody else a couple weeks ago. Did you say you've been to zoning and planning yet?
Yeah, I've been to zoning, the lots were approved for this.
Okay, so are we your last step?
Yes.
Okay, did any of you folks know about them in front of the planning and zoning?
First notification, we want to subdivide.
Were there requirements to do public notification in front of planning and zoning?
A&R lots, yeah.
I'm sorry?
I believe, I didn't have anything to do with that
Okay.
process, but they have been done, it's been approved by the zoning.
That's all I can tell you in terms of that. It's
No, we've never received anything.
nothing. I don't know what to tell you.
Alright, well,
It's usually a butters within 100 feet.
okay, and as across the street, we've heard nothing.
Okay, but then somehow you've got, I would say somehow appeal to zoning and planning then.
Okay.
Because I honestly, I think a lot of your issues are outside. We've already spoken about DPW, planning and zoning tonight. So.
Okay, I also just wanna formally voice my opinion that there has been no presentation besides just word of mouth, that there is no change to any water flow or any disruption to this wetland. It's been all word of mouth saying, no different amount of rain is gonna fall, but there's been no actual evidence or figures or anything actually demonstrated to any of us here that nothing is actually gonna change about the water flow rate or anything adversely impacting this wetland. It's been completely word of mouth, and I know that there's probably nothing you can do about it, but I just want it formally stated that I think that's not cool.
Would folks, along those lines, like to see the NOI package that they submitted?
Yes.
Okay, can you make some of those available and give them to Nick? So folks can come in and get those packages. If they wanna look at the calculations.
I think Nick does have, he has a PDF copy of it too.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
can you print it for you, or what?
Yeah, anyone that had written down their information, if you haven't already, you can write it down on the paper Mike has here, but I'll get in contact with you about, those NOI. And even if I don't, you're more than welcome to call me, email me, show up at the office, and I'll show you whatever you wanna see.
Sure.
Jeremy, Wildflower, did you guys check their calculations, or you said, oh, they provided calculations,
No, we don't.
they're good, no one
We don't.
verifies their calculations, they can just.
No, they're typically, they're trained engineers, wetland scientists and the like, and we trust their calculations.
Usually
I agree,
professional
engineers
engineer
make mistakes, we know that, so no, there's no checks and balances, they say, here you go, let's do it.
Yes, correct, that is correct.
Thank you.
No plan, checks or balances, doesn't mean there aren't any. Because if something comes to our attention, we'll certainly look into it. Doesn't mean we're being proactively hiring an engineer to recalculate what the professional engineers say was their calculation.
So none of you guys are engineers.
No, I've been accused of being an engineer. Try to take it as a personal insult. Ma'am, did you have your hand up?
Oh god, yeah, I did, but I think it's just stuck like this.
Okay, all right. Rich?
Can I like to add something in?
Please.
Clarify a little bit of the conversation from earlier as to what this commission has authority to look at, if I can. So I'm gonna read right out of, what is it, chapter 10, but it's the DEP regulations that are based on the Wetlands Protection Act. And the following interests, we look at, different water bodies and then the land, the wetlands adjacent to them, and activities within that range. But the activities we're looking to do are to protect either public and private water supply, protection of groundwater supply, flood control, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, prevention of land containing shellfish, protection of fisheries, and protection of wildlife habitat. And those are the different things that we can look at when we look at this. It doesn't mean because there's an impact that we would say no to something, because everything has an impact.
Sure.
Is there enough of an impact to these things? How is it affecting it from what this particular single project is? As far as the whole city view, I think a lot of that is DPW or zoning or planning or wherever.
Your hand's still-
Unfortunately, we get it
your hand's still
sometimes.
stuck?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome, go ahead.
So you just listed all those things that are in your jurisdiction that we've been talking about, that you're saying time and again, like, oh, the wildlife, or oh, the standing water.
Right, no, within 100 feet of the wetlands. Cutting trees outside the 100-foot buffer,
They're gonna,
that's-
a lot of those trees are in the buffer. No, there's a lawn they wanna put, extending to 35
And they
feet.
can make some impact, and this is pretty typical as to what the kind of impact is.
And this is the one that has less impact, correct?
Oh, I'm looking forward to the next. If I may.
I'm just curious because there's been no quantification of any sort of impact or non-impact. Like there's just been no presentation of any quantitative analysis of this. It's all been qualitative, word of mouth, and you guys seem to be okay with that. Like there's not even there's not even a figure, not even a single figure or table showing what their analysis has demonstrated before or after as the impact.
I think that a lot of that's in the animal.
correct,
A lot.
correct. I'd like to make that NOI package available to everybody who wants it.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and just suggest now that we should continue this.
That was already there.
And yeah, so we'll continue this. We're not gonna vote to approve or deny tonight. Anyone that is interested or wants to take a look at the NOIs, please contact me. I'd be more than willing to show you. But we will continue this to at least the next meeting.
Yeah, do you want
Or I would recommend that we.
to be proactive, and we'll get email addresses of anybody that wants it, and we can just send it out.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, if anyone hasn't written down their info already,
There's
yeah,
phone numbers, email numbers.
Okay, yeah, I mean.
Can you post it to your conservation committee wiki page? Just post a PDF,
So it's on.
Yeah, did you,
the NOI.
Can you post all
it
the
should be, everything posted.
Yeah.
It was our own.
Actually, where we can get our hands on it.
Yeah, so if you just wanna do it, put the PDF on the website?
I can work on.
Yeah, we'll put the PDF on the website, that's all right, yeah. I tell you, I've been on this Concom for a little over 2 years now, and this is by far the most reaction I've ever had to any submission.
Yeah.
Sir?
I think, again, Brian McNally, 164 Wicker Street, I think we were left out of the loop, which you identified, and that's why we're so hot.
Understandably,
We don't, we just, no disrespect,
Yes.
but you're who we're facing right now.
Yes.
I've only been on this commission since November. You're not the first people to come to us who were their last choice, but their first choice because the first they heard about it. And that happens, and then people are frustrated. I very much understand your frustration. What do you mean you can't look at this aspect? It's important, or this aspect, or this? And our hands are just a little too tight. And I deliberately read that list to clarify the wildlife consideration in a way. Very much so.
Yes.
Why can't we have meetings where the people who like have authority over different things are all in the same room?
That's a schedule.
Way too efficient.
And we'd be here.
Bureaucracy.
That's it. We had enough trouble getting our own forums.
All right.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
It would make everybody's lives a lot easier.
It's just in the interest of timeliness.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue this hearing, but we're going to 16 Wildflower Lane next, Wildflower Road. Would it be okay if we just continue this hearing and then moved on to number 16?
Sure.
Would folks be okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
We can just say zero.
Do we want to play back the video for all the same questions?
Are there any last questions though?
I think we've kind of touched on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I kind of know, I get the sense of the room. So if I could, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue the hearing for 10 Wildflower Road. So that we can make available the PDF of the NOI to the public, and that we can meet folks out on site in the next 2 weeks, as many as are available. And then we'll go on from there. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing for 10 Wildflower. Oh, yes, sorry.
And I'll say.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was the motion. I thought you were asking a question, sorry. And who was the second?
I'll say.
Thank you.
All right, Rich,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Jeff, and Chuck.
Aye.
All right, motion continues to the next meeting.
So will you be setting a sidewalk or a sidewalk date, Nick?
I'm gonna be reaching out to people and seeing when they can meet me, I mean, if you would like to be present for as many sidewalks as you can, I can reach out to you before I go out.
Sidewalks, are you talking about multiple sidewalks for this property?
I thought there was just gonna be one.
I would rather keep it to one sidewalk and have as many people make it as they can. I'd rather not have multiple, because that's your time too.
Right,
And our time, remember, we're volunteers, we have jobs. So we can't just go to six sidewalks.
We'll have one sidewalk. It'd be a good idea to have the developers there, like we can have a communal, like, discussion and a unified agreement as to like what we looked at and walked at. I think it would be unfair to exclude them.
Right, so, I think the best thing to do is anyone that is here that's interested at being present at that sidewalk, my email is on the agenda.
Well, why don't we do this, why don't we do it this way? Let's schedule with the engineers and us.
Yeah.
Try to figure out the best date and time possible.
Yes.
And then send it out to these folks, and as many of them that can make it, will make it.
That's what I was gonna say, so anyone that's interested, get in contact with me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna arrange the meeting and I'll let you guys know when we're gonna be.
We all put our names, we're all interested.
Okay, alright, yeah.
So my guess is you all won't be available, we all won't be available either, but hopefully we'll get as many of us there as possible.
And I'll just,
In serious, we're gonna make ourselves available.
so yes,
We only have 4 email addresses, and it'd be unfair to try to make phone calls to everybody on this list.
so yeah, if you wanna pass the,
Yeah,
anyone that's,
I don't know if the meeting all the way around.
Yeah, okay.
and if you don't hear from me,
I'll get it back.
if you don't hear from me in the next few days, it just means that I missed you. I'm gonna try and reach out to everybody, but if you don't hear from me, please send me an email, just let me know.
You're reaching out by email.
By email, yeah, I'll send out emails to everyone that has it written down. If you don't hear from me, my email is out there,
Are there
available.
copies of the agenda?
Yeah.
Grab them there.
I do not, there should be an agenda posted.
This copy of this agenda? I've got one here.
Anyway, they have you're looking for my email,
Right.
right? Yeah, if you have an extra.
I do.
Can you make copies of those?
And the list of the things that are the 8 interests identified in the Wetland Protection Act are right there on the back of the agenda.
And it says when the next meeting is scheduled,
Yes.
which is the 23rd.
And so if we get rain within the next week, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
See what we can do.
second week. Yeah. So we get some this week, and we
All right.
can wait a week for rain.
Yeah.
All right,
That's all I'm saying.
I want the rain.
so do I, yeah, very badly. All right, so,
Would it be helpful if there was another significant rainstorm if somebody took photographs?
sure.
And yeah, any photos at any time that you think are pertinent to this, please send my way.
So I'm sure there've been some rainstorms that these guys haven't seen, so if it will help inform their design, then that's perfectly fine. All right, let's put number 10 aside, move on to number 16, so let me read it into the record. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent regarding the construction of a single-family home and associated site work. Address 16 Wildflower Road, 140 Lincoln Street, Lot 5A. Map and parcel 563-15, DEP file number 199-1161. Sir, to you.
So I just have a question, in the time set, with all things considered, would it make sense for us to continue to the next meeting pending the site walk for this lot?
This one?
Or
That's
for
up to
both
you.
of them?
That's up to you.
I think,
I mean,
I'd like to hear a description of what's happening by the wetland, if you could, so we're a little more prepared.
yeah, well, that's what I was just tossing it.
Yeah, no, yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, alright, so we're at 16 Wildflower now, lot 5A. Again, this house is within the buffer. We're very minimal grading on this lot, and we're proposing straw wattles and silt fence. And
How much is, show me the buffer.
I'm sorry, yeah. Buffer's right there, it goes in front of the house and across the driveway.
So the whole development of that one is within the buffer.
Correct.
The whole parcel is basically 95% or something.
yeah, and we're about 40 feet from the resource area.
At the closest.
That's correct.
What? It looks like they're touching.
So that's the whole parcel's highlighted there.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's all gonna be lawn.
Yeah, so what you're saying is it's 40 feet from there
Correct.
to there, right? Okay.
Yes.
So what happens
All of their disturbing work will be behind these contour, these erosion control lines,
Right.
and all the work behind that.
That dotted line is what they're proposing as the, limit of construction, and where they'll put the straw wall,
Sorry, where's the buffer then?
right here.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
What's being cleared?
Yeah, that was my, what's the extent of the, tree clearing?
As a limit of clearing,
The green area?
yeah, I'd say about the green area.
Okay,
Get on to the,
okay.
The whole green area? I thought you were only working up through halfway there.
Yeah,
well, as far as our grading activities is only up to so on the lot.
So is this gonna be lawn?
Yes,
Which means you're taking out trees?
not yet. No trees are taken out, yes.
But that's in the
But
place.
but you will.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. Okay. Just so we all
Yeah,
understand.
no,
And let me just clarify something here, so this is the 450, and then you're pulling that 450 line back to here?
Correct.
Is that right? So you're gonna be excavating some of that and pulling that back?
We're pretty much meeting the grade on this lot, so that 450, 405, sorry, I can't see it from here. The last contour on lot 4A is pretty much the limit of what we're grading on 5A. So that this.
Okay.
Pretty much the
Wait.
limit.
And this is the erosion control?
That's correct.
But you're gonna put in lawn above beyond where you're saying you're grading.
Right, but we're not changing the grades there. It's relatively flat.
So then how is it not gonna be flooded?
Hold on a minute, we'll get you, trust me, you've seen me,
We have an opening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You know GW1, you can sit here.
That was good.
excellent. We'll talk after.
See how fun it is?
I am.
I think, to me, this is pretty straightforward. I don't have any questions. Anybody else in the commission have any questions?
But are you clearing, or are you bringing in topsoil and seeding through this area?
Seeding in topsoil.
Oh, okay.
So
Do you know the
those would need to be beyond that.
Kind of, yeah, if you're gonna be removing trees and grading, it seems to me that erosion control, should we approve
We could add a
this?
second row of erosion control.
Should this get approved, you're gonna need more than just that if you're gonna be clearing and grading.
This one would get more questions than the other one, if that's a fair way to word this, okay?
I have a question on.
Oh, no, we'll get to you.
We're still with the commission.
Yeah, commission first. You all set, Jeff?
Yeah.
Ken? Michael, you all set? Over here?
I'll wait till I'm out there for more.
Okay.
That was pretty developed down there.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Yes?
I wasn't sure if you were looking at me.
No, it's like you both.
I can't even
Yeah.
see you.
That's okay.
Sorry. So I remember that there were little, did you ever see the little placards? Angela,
Could you talk a little louder, please?
That's a.
Placards for us?
Yes.
Yes, we have some of them.
Okay.
What, so what drains to wetland?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something.
Wait,
They're different things.
To put in front of the storm drains?
No, we used to use them, we used
She was asking about placards that say drain to wetlands. Go ahead.
No, it doesn't say drain to
Oh.
wetlands, it says that, I don't remember, I even have one at home. I can't remember what it said, but it basically said that, beyond this is a wetland. And they have, conditioned it to handle in other projects in the past, so.
No,
And I was just
don't-
wondering if Angela had shown you.
No, I misunderstood. We don't have those as far as I know,
Okay,
but I can look into that.
yeah,
And you condition that on previous?
I believe they have put it in the conditions.
That can be a special condition.
Yeah.
That's not onerous.
Yeah, but again, I don't, I didn't know how many she had left and where they, I don't really know, I just know, she actually gave me some of them.
Can you bring yours in next time? Can you bring yours in so we can look at it?
I'll try to, yeah.
Yeah, if you have extra, and then
I have extra, I don't know.
I have her number now, so I can reach out to her.
All right, so are you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, so no, any other questions from the commission?
One quick comment,
Sure.
I'm impressed at everybody who came out. No offense to the guys proposing this, but that is impressive. Wow, that's,
Yeah.
that's fair to say.
All right,
One quick question is, Is this considered a non-buildable lot now?
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
So this will remain wild and natural,
Correct.
which, okay, that's a good thing, right? And,
Where's that extend like?
huh?
Where's that extend? It didn't just die away, right?
Yeah.
What, the wetland line?
Yeah, that's that's what, one of the things we
We'll walk it down to the
go out
road
there,
when we go out.
figure out where this goes and
Yeah,
in both directions.
all right. All right, the commission all set?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'll open up to the public. Again, before stating a question, please state your name and address. Ma'am?
Catherine T. Baird, 120 Lincoln. Will there be a summary of this meeting?
It's being recorded right now as we speak. So, but the written summary, no, I don't, well, there'll be minutes eventually, eventually. But how can they review the summary, how can they review this, the video, when's it available, you know?
The video's usually a day or two after.
It's on YouTube.
As soon as they're able to post it, they post it, so it's like pretty soon after, like Wednesday, Thursday.
They being YouTube.
Leominster Television. Yes.
Yeah.
They.
Infamous thing.
Yeah.
And way in the corner.
Yeah, I couldn't remember from the last conversation, the soil erosion barriers, are those only up during construction, are they removed after construction?
They are removed after construction and after, the approval of the commission.
Right, in order to get what's called,
Certificate of compliance.
thank you. I was thinking certificate of occupancy, I knew I wasn't right. Certificate of compliance, before they get that and are able to actually close out their notice of intent, the conservation agent has to go inspect the property, and then they can pull out the straw wall.
But they're not required to.
Yeah.
They can stay there.
They could leave it there, but
Yeah.
Okay. So the follow-up question is, you know, one, are they planning on being left there? And two, if they're planning on being removed, how does that change the analysis of what's gonna be happening to the wetlands post-construction and post-new homeowner?
I think I understand your question. The calculations aren't based on the straw wattle being there. The straw wattle is simply there to prevent any runoff during construction. So that once the straw construction is done, the straw wattle is removed, then the conditions that were planned for in their plans can then take effect.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
That answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I'm just curious, under the conditions under which the calculations are done.
Correct. Rich?
It takes takes the sediment out, not the runoff per se. It's the sediment.
Well, I meant the center around here. Yeah, correct, yes. Thank you. Did you have a question?
Can you tell me what the point of wetland buffers is?
So I could try that.
Have at it.
Alright, so it's so that basically they have to come before us. If it's outside of the 100-foot buffer, it's completely outside of our jurisdiction. If it's within 200 feet of a riverfront area, that's also within our jurisdiction. But if it's outside of that, we can't do anything. If it's inside of that, it's assumed that there will be some kind of impact, which is why they have to go before us. And if we see that there is some egregious impact, that we have the ability to put in special conditions. To a point.
Just because they're proposing development within the 100-foot buffer doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means we have the jurisdiction to vote on it, and we can condition it, should we approve it, to prevent/minimize impacts of the wetlands.
So we all agree that they're worth protecting, right?
Yes,
And we're trying
Yes.
to prevent egregious disturbances.
Correct.
So this lawn extending to the wetland, touching all the way. How would you describe that?
To give you an answer, that would be a personal answer, and I don't want to do that in this forum. But what I can, there will be a vote on this, and I guess, am I answering that correctly? I don't think I'm.
Yeah, so I would.
I'd rather not presage my answer to that question, which is basically answering this whole thing.
So we're not there yet, but as the agent, when we get to the point where we're voting on this, I would recommend that we put in a condition that there, leave however much buffer from the edge of the wetland to where the lawn starts, but that would be a special condition that we could put.
Should we approve it?
Should we approve it?
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yes. Can Rich jump in? Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, there's kind of like 3 levels in effect of what we can do. If something's within the resource, meaning within the wetland or within the river, we have to assume the activity is gonna have an impact and put controls on it or stop it. We have the option. If it's within the buffer zone that extends out, that's really where our authority comes in. That gives us the option to decide it's not even applicable. It has no bearing, it has some bearing, will have an impact, and we put controls on it. Anything beyond 100 feet, we have no authority whatsoever. So it gives basically a little legal ground to have some bit of that buffer to try to protect the direct resource. That's where we can have some impact, assuming we use whatever the majority agrees is whether there's an impact or what to do with it.
So your arm simply stuck that way, right?
it is, yeah. I'm sorry, I have a lot of opinions.
Have you seen the movie Free Guy?
Yes.
The guy in the back, he can't put his arms down. With that said, go ahead.
Okay, so that being said, that we do want to protect things that are within this 100-foot buffer. This is a whole house inside that 100-foot buffer.
Oh, we noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we noticed.
Okay,
We noticed.
cool. Just wanted to make sure that was said that blatantly.
Got it. Sure. Sir.
Yeah, Brian McNally, 164 Lincoln Street again. Now, because this particular lot, the grade is very high, I'm concerned about erosion and runoff. Is we can mandate them to put another sewer there to handle that runoff?
And workable one.
If DPW needed it, the DPW check.
Yeah, sewer's DPW. Oh, can we mandate that?
Not sewer, storm drain.
Storm drain, yeah, storm drain, right.
Yes.
Can we mandate that? I've never been asked that question. My guess is probably not. Because the DPW puts in their storm drains based on calculated runoff on X surface area above roads, and that's how many they put in. If you want to present them information that might convince them to put another one in, you're more than welcome to.
Because I don't know what the elevation above the Wildflower Street is, but it's gonna be at least 10 to 12 feet high or higher.
I haven't been to the site personally myself, so.
Well, I can answer that, I'm sure. But I'm saying, I'm afraid of erosion because everything's gonna be stripped out of there, all the vegetation will be gone. They've already started clearing trees in that lot.
Yeah. So you're talking about erosion from the lot into the street, is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Toward my property.
Okay. Should we permit this project? I can see a special condition being the straw wattle.
That's not gonna handle it.
Handle what?
I'm talking about erosion coming my way.
No, it doesn't handle the flow. It handles the sediment that's in the flow.
So you're talking about post-construction, the runoff coming off the property?
Exactly.
Okay, because the house is pitched higher than the road?
Much higher.
Is that what you're saying? Okay, so I see what you mean.
As I said, the contours on the project appear to be flowing away from the
What about
roadway.
facing Wildflower?
From the back.
The driveway
That's-
is coming to us,
There's a
the
lot of-
driveway coming down into
So you've got contour line here and here.
And that's another place, an issue to be addressed by DPW, and I think a lot of the issues that we're gonna have relevant to this lot are the same issues that we've already discussed this evening. And the same agencies that we have said have jurisdiction over the issues that we previously discussed will also have jurisdiction over this lot as well. Unfortunately, that may not be the best answer or the answer that everyone's looking for. But fact of the matter is that that's the truth, that's the answer, unfortunately.
We've got some musical accompaniment. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I mean, it's gonna be the same as the last one, like you
Okay,
can just
fair enough.
read the video.
Yeah.
Any new questions?
Any new questions or comments? Sir?
Case Skyline from 88 Bernice Avenue. Again, where Wildflower Road meets Bernice Avenue, I walk my dog there all the time, and I'm already seeing severe erosion problems that clearly have been going on for 5, 10, 20 years. That water runoff is gonna continue in that area, and it's gonna, I'm concerned about it washing that road out.
What do you mean by erosion? Is there literally soil and sediment in the erosion?
Yeah,
In the
it's
snowmobile?
where the water runs underneath, I guess Wildflower Road, or, it meets Bernice Avenue, and
Right into our house.
yeah, you can see that it's already coming steep down that bed. Now, I know it's not gonna change the volume that, water that falls in that land, but it is gonna increase the amount of runoff and the rate at which that comes off, which, again, when I lived in South Hadley, I saw it for 15 years, the same pretty much setup, it destroyed, it eroded a bunch of stuff that ended up costing, my mom's boyfriend at the time, tens of thousands of dollars on his own to repair. That's my concern. I don't care about, the wetlands or anything like that. I'm concerned about that erosion.
Hey,
I'm offended.
I'll have none of that.
I mean, I'm concerned about the monetary impact of that erosion at that road.
That's further on down here, and you'll be attending the site visit, so you can show us what you
Yes, and I can, and it's pretty.
So it's important, you're all making, good arguments, you've gotta please come and show us exactly what you mean.
I mean, by the way, I don't think the air conditioning here is suited to handle it. I'm getting kind of stuffy.
And, I'm not a builder, but I pretend I am. I mean, there's ways to angle these driveways so they're not coming straight out onto the road to come right into you. And if you get water moving downhill, and if I remembered it right, this kind of goes downhill this way. If you get the water running down that way, it's gonna continue to run down there. It goes downhill, doesn't it?
Goes to points of lower energy.
Thank you. Points of lower, he is an engineer, he just doesn't play on it too. Points of lower energy. But, I mean, there are ways to combat those problems.
All right, well,
and the good news is you've got this big buffer lot on the end that can't be buildable, so there's hopefully the wetlands will back up and there'll be a big vegetative state and gorillas will show up and.
Based on the continuance of number 10, I am inclined to continue this one as well.
Yes.
I would recommend that. So if there are no further comments or questions, I'll close the public hearing portion of this and request a continuance of this to our next meeting. To hopefully arrange a site visit and people to get the plans in the meantime. So with that, I'll accept the motion to continue.
I'll make that motion.
I start Rich first.
I'll second.
Yep.
Liz will second. Ken Redlin?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chuck?
Aye.
Motion passes. We will continue.
And with the plan is to continue this to the meeting 2 weeks from now, which is 23rd.
So we'll continue this to the 23rd.
And hopefully get those plans to anybody that wants it in the meantime, and arrange a site visit with as many people as can make it, including us in the meantime.
And just to be clear, we will be continuing this to the 23rd. When a hearing gets continued, it's not required that we post another legal ad in the paper. That's just for when the hearing is open.
Right, so we're asking 23rd, same time, same room?
23rd, same time. It won't be in the paper because we're continuing the hearing.
Bring pizza.
Yes.
Different temperature over.
I'm not sure what conspiracy theories you're proposing, but we have no secret meetings at midnight. We don't meet at the gas station for coffee.
We do site visits, and sometimes, I think the public's not always involved in those, or usually is not.
Right, but the site visits are for us to ask questions, not to debate the issue. We're simply to ask the proponent questions, not to debate it, just so we can get more information.
But we want to learn what
It's not
your
gonna be a
concerns are,
public
so we
debate
can
on the
best make our decision.
What was that in the corner?
I was just clarifying, it's not gonna be a public debate on our street when you come for the site visit.
Fair enough.
Information gathering.
Correct. Before we all take off, I want to make sure I thank you all for coming here.
Yeah.
This is open meeting at its best. We really appreciate your input. We
Yes.
may not have given you answers you wanted, but hopefully we gave you the best answers we could. And we'll hopefully see many of you at the sidewalk sometime in the next couple of weeks.
And at the next meeting.
And at the next meeting too, yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all very much. Thank you guys. Gauntlet cards.
Final check.
Public notice. Yes, okay, yeah. I thought you were asking for something. No. I don't have anything for it. Okay.
That was for newspaper.
Yes, okay.
Oh, I don't know.
You can take a 5 minute break. Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Hold on.
So, let's go and get started. All right, moving on. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Falls Protection Act, The Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent regarding the construction of a garage and associated site work. Address 148 Farm Hill Road, map and parcel 504-44, DEP file number 199-1162. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Wesley Fliss, Haley Ward, this is Jonathan Cliff from Haley Ward also.
Okay.
And then Henry Meagle, who's the applicant, is also here this evening.
Sure. Okay.
The property that we are in front of you for is 148 Farm Hill Road. The reason we're in front of you is we're proposing work within the 100 buffer zone to the wetlands. There's an existing wetland that is in the northeastern corner of the property at 148 Farm Hill Road that was there before the subdivision was constructed. It was flagged a couple months ago. I believe, did you guys get a chance to walk it today or?
I was not able to.
I was on the previously. Nick's been out to the property before, when the applicant had reached out to the city about putting up his garage. So what we're proposing is a 20 by 30 foot metal garage for storage in the back of the property. We do show a proposed paved driveway leading up to the garage. The majority of that work is as close as we could to the 100 buffer zone in that corner of the property furthest away from the wetlands. We do show some grading associated with the garage within that, or closer to the wetlands. The closest point really is about 50 feet to the wetlands. We do show road control barrier. We're thinking probably a straw wattle for something like this, where the erosion shouldn't be too drastic for a project of this size. We do show a small retaining wall on the uphill side of the garage, in between the new garage and the existing driveway for the abutting property. And we do show a fence along the top there also, to kind of create some separation between the wall and the existing abutter's driveway. That's right up against the property line of the two properties.
I'm sorry, was that the retaining wall is there now?
No, it's a new small retaining wall.
Yeah, proposed block wall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, proposed, okay,
And so it's, again, it's gonna be a couple foot elevation difference there between where the existing grade is for the driveway when you come into the abutting property and where the garage is gonna be now. There's a drop off there now. There's about a 3-to-1 slope just off the edge of that driveway into the back of the property behind the garage. The intent there is to leave a little bit of space. We show 20 feet between the existing garage and the proposed garage so that the applicant can still get around there with any of his vehicles that he needs to get around there for.
Did you say existing garage and proposed garage?
Yeah, so on the right-hand side of the house is an existing garage.
It's the neighbor's garage?
Nope, there's an existing 2-car garage on the house now, and so what?
I'm missing that.
That's part of the
Sure.
That's what I was confused about when I saw it.
Mr. Chairman, right, on the bigger, the bump out part, that's actually
Part of the house.
Oh, so that's
Oh,
the garage, okay.
So it's a garage portion of the house.
Correct.
Got it, okay.
No, I was
Oh,
confused.
And so the new garage is more for, it's for both, more for the toys than anything. Where the existing garage is now full, and then.
Okay, so the existing driveway, I see, comes in from right to the front of the house, okay.
Correct.
Got it, all right.
The new garage, the new drive will come off the side. Right now, there's a kind of a rock area, a gravelly area there off to the side of the existing garage that he parks his toys now, and now he's trying to look to get them out of the elements when he's not using them.
All right.
And so that's the project in a nutshell. There are no chicken coops on the property.
Yay.
100 foot buffer, so.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, that's a question on every project. Is there a chicken coop? Yeah, okay.
You remember.
All right, thank you, Wes, appreciate it. A couple of questions. The area where the garage is proposed.
Yes.
What is there now?
Just grass.
It's all, so no tree cutting involved?
So we're looking maybe one tree I think we looked at that's behind the garage, maybe have to come down. And it's more because of the root system.
Okay.
It's a fairly substantial tree, and so we're just concerned about the root system.
And that's right behind the house now?
Right behind where the new garage is gonna go.
Oh, okay.
And so everything behind the house is all grass there.
Okay, all right. And I noticed that the proposed erosion control barrier ends at what I assume is the property line.
That is the property line, correct.
Is there any way to extend, because it looks like you might have some flow that would miss that barrier. Is there some way to extend that?
We can extend it up the property line if need be, and so it's something that they can take a look at as, yeah,
I'd like that.
and that's fine, we can extend it up the property line.
At this, so I assume that scale is correct, so we're talking maybe what? I'm thinking maybe 50 feet something like that?
Yeah.
40
Right down
ish?
Like
Where that wall will start.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the
I
same.
don't wanna engineer it, but
Nope,
just enough so you're capturing,
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And
okay,
we can make sure that stays on their property and not into the wetlands.
alright. And I wouldn't mind seeing, I know it's only one tree, what kind of tree it is? Is it hardwood or softwood?
Scotch pine.
I'm sorry, what?
Scotch pine.
Scotch pine, okay. How big is it, ish? 20, 30 feet?
It's under 20 feet, I planted it myself a few years ago.
Say 120 feet?
Under 20 feet.
Oh, okay, that's a big Scotch pine, man. Alright, I wouldn't mind seeing that replacement, just because it's within the buffer, I wouldn't mind seeing that replaced somehow with something of like kind. If that's possible, like, just like off to the side of the garage, just to,
I plan on doing some planting, some bushes and.
well, I'd like to see some kind of tree,
Okay.
just because of the shade. If you're amenable to it, I wouldn't mind seeing that in the special conditions. You amenable to that?
Can it be anywhere in the buffer zone?
Somewhere as close as possible to where the old tree was.
Yeah, I think the tree is actually on,
It's right on the property
I
line.
think it's literally right on the property.
It's right on the property line, it's almost out of the buffer zone. And so that's why I asked, as long as you're okay with it being a little further down, because trying to get it anywhere close.
Yeah, somewhere in that area, it doesn't be the same spot, somewhere in that area, just
You good with that, Brett?
okay. All right, so those extend the erosion control and replace the tree as best you can with a like kind, somewhere in that, as close as you can to that area. Those are my only questions. Anybody else?
No.
Questions, comments?
I drove up there yesterday, straightforward.
Anybody want to have any silly special conditions like I just had?
No, I agree with the one having to bring the erosion control down along the property.
Yeah.
I'm not as concerned about the tree, I don't know how much shade it's providing or what that does for the.
It'll be small to get under a Scotch pine.
So.
Yeah. Big Scotch pine.
Not as big as I get.
All right. Anybody else? No? Okay. With that,
Actually,
We did notify about it, I did give the green cards to
Yes. Are you surprised nobody here?
I was a little nervous when I walked in. Well, it was Jonathan's first meeting, and I wasn't sure if he was gonna.
Jonathan, welcome, good to have you.
Who presented the last time was his first meeting.
That's John and I were talking in the hallway, said, well, this is actually a good one for you to see and not be part of. Yeah, so.
Yeah. All right, Jonathan, what do you do? You're an engineer?
Yep.
Okay.
no, I
So what'd you get your degree?
You answered.
What was that?
What'd you get your degree?
UNH.
UNH? Nice. Good. I almost went there, but I didn't. Anyway, but that's not part of the conversation. I'm sorry, everybody else set?
Hey, you are gonna be trenching for power, but that's gonna be within the erosion control anyway, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so if that's all the commission has, I'll go ahead and close this portion. I'll open up to the public. Is anybody here that wishes to speak on the topic, please do so now, but before you speak, please state your name and address. Second time? Third and final time. All right, with that, I'll go ahead and close the hearing. And Nick, what's your recommendation?
So I would recommend that we approve the order
Okay.
with the conditions stated.
In addition to the boilerplate?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. With that, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion. Thank you, Liz. Jeff? Thank you, Jeff. All right.
Just to read those conditions being noted, mention them again, please, so we're totally clear on what we're voting on.
One of them was to extend the erosion control barrier 40 to 50 feet, make sure it captures any runoff
Up along
the property, past the property line. And also to try as best they can to replace the Scotch pines being taken out with something of like kind, as close to that area as they can get. Don't need it a foot off the foundation, that'd be silly.
It's clear for the record.
Yeah, appreciate that. So that was those are my special conditions. So, do we go all the way around the horn? No, okay.
And any additional shrub plantings that you would like to put in, that would be nice too, but I don't know, we don't need to. If you're doing the tree,
yeah,
I'm not gonna put anything else on.
Good. So, we just, okay.
Alright, so, yeah, for a second, Rich?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And Chuck?
Aye.
Alright, motion passes with the added conditions.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you, Jonathan, hope to see you, sometime again.
Like in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Kind of toy you keep putting in there.
Oh, the side by side, lawnmowers, things like that.
Nice.
I like extras.
Thank you. What'd you say?
You're welcome, good luck.
Was it boats? Boat, yes. Okay.
What's a side by side?
Oh, it's like a ATV.
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
All enjoy.
Ready, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Alright.
Alright, gentlemen, moving on.
How's it going?
Good, how are you? Good. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a request for determination of applicability regarding the demolition and replacement of a water storage tank and associated site work. Address 300 Route 2 Highway, map and parcel 429-12. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Please introduce yourselves.
Yep, I'm Chuck Karen from Karen Environmental Consulting, and Maureen Mesner, Maureen Pierce, the design engineers.
Okay.
I think it's easy if I stand over here. What do you think?
No, please honor the board.
So basically, this is the water tank off the end of West Street. Route 2 is right over here. This continues out to West Street, the parking area for the trailers.
I'm pulling my phone to look at the property on maps. I'm not ignoring you, please go.
Okay, so there's the existing road that comes up to the water tank and peters out, but continues after that. It kind of is a hiking trail beyond the tank.
Yeah, fire alarm.
So the proposal is to demolish the existing tank. It's currently a 3 million gallon tank. It's going to be replaced with a 2 million gallon tank. So basically, the tank and the work is all fitting within the footprint of what's already there. Just north of this, we have Stock Brook running right along Route 2. The closest top of bank, annual high water line is delineated right along here. So we end up with this pale green line is the 100-foot buffer zone. And this pinkish purplish line is the riverfront area from our new Brook. So the tank itself is completely out of the riverfront and jurisdiction. Basically, the work that ends up being within the riverfront area is connected a little bit of this gravel area. This area is
riverfront buffer area? Not within the river, but within the buffer area, correct?
200 feet.
It's the riverfront area, yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, the riverfront area is not a buffer, it is what it is,
yeah.
So basically, into the riverfront, we've got to connect some underground electric and some control lines and things over to the existing structure over here. And this is kind of a broken up pavement now, so I think there's some debate whether it's gonna get repaved or not.
It could just be a trench patch for the electrical conduit, or it might be paved. We're expecting cranes and some other things up there that they may want to touch it up at the end, so we kept it in there for now, the full pavement. But that may, if anything, it's gonna get scaled back.
But it's basically paving back with it.
Yeah, it's not extending anything.
The only other thing that has come up.
So that dark gray area, that's already basically.
It's paved now.
It's paved now, and you're
Not in greatest condition.
And you're not extending it. If anything, you'd be repairing it.
And if anything, it may get limited to just a patch where the red line going across from the electrical building to the tank for the electrical conduit.
Okay.
The other work, we didn't know this at the time we filed. I dropped off an updated plan and a letter to go with it last week for you. Is National Grid is requiring a little bit of work at this pole down here. It's an existing pole. They've got to put in meter and something.
It's so the existing meter for the service is at the electrical building up by the tank.
Yep.
When we met with our National Grid, there's a spare conduit. We need to bring a larger service up there from that pole spot where he was just showing you. Their concern was that the run is so long of electrical wire that the city wouldn't be paying their fair share of electrical costs with that length of electrical wire.
Right.
So they're requiring a meter be put on like a unistrut right at the pole. So there may be about 3 to 4 feet of excavation from the pole to a unistrut to concrete sonotubes, and then the electrical meter.
Existing existing conduit up?
Yeah, there's a spare conduit, we're not running it.
This, they're just gonna pull it along.
We were hoping to just pull from there and then mount it on the outside of that building, but they were concerned that it wouldn't register accurately the electrical.
And I'm sorry, new term for me, unistrut?
Yeah, it's like just, like stainless steel pulp, like, how can I explain it?
Post, basically.
Yeah, it's basically opposed to the concrete, and it's just got, spots for bolts and things like that, so you can just put a meter right on it.
Okay, got it, okay.
What's the size of the tank again?
2 million gallons.
The proposed one is
Yeah.
2 million, existing is 3.
Oh, it's just, so it's smaller,
It's actually
small?
Yeah, it's smaller. It's smaller capacity. It's not as big of a smaller diameter. The foundation under the existing tank is ledge, so to put this new tank in, we have to put some structural fill underneath the new tank. So when you raise up the floor elevation, the overflow has to stay at the same height for the hydraulics of the system.
Yeah.
So the tank just gets wider to get to the 2. It's not wider than the 3 million, it's smaller, but it's not like a 33% smaller.
No, it's a couple feet smaller.
It might be 5 to 10 feet all the way around. It's enough for us to get a gravel track around the tank for access.
What is the tank used for?
Potable water.
Just potable water.
Just drinking.
For the city.
Drinking water. Maintain water pressure.
Gravity.
That's my water, I drink that water.
Yeah, the No Town Water Treatment Plant
Your
is
little tap.
right there, fills that tank.
So
it gets filled from outside?
basically, we have fairly minor work in the riverfront area. My interpretation is this is actually exempt, which is why we filed a request for determination. As a replacement, repair, replacement, modification of existing things like public utility structures is exempt.
Exactly.
The strange part of that section of regulations is but not change, which is always a judgment, what's change and not change.
Yeah.
It's still a water tank.
What's that?
It's still a water tank.
You're right, it's still a water tank, it's going in the same footprint, if not smaller, there's no disturbance outside of what's
It'll
already.
be better water quality.
Why lesser volume?
Just a random question, how old is the existing tank?
1960. Wow.
Wow, that's old I am.
The cost now, it's a steel tank, it's actually not that many things wrong with it, it's just the cost now to blast and coat and the environmental impacts of that are about the same cost to put like a concrete tank, which has virtually no maintenance, so.
Yeah.
In addition, we're putting a mixing system in there for disinfection byproducts to increase the water, make the water quality better as well.
Okay.
So what will happen to all of the material? Is it gonna be stored on
I
site
don't
for
like
some
that
period
idea,
of
I'll
time?
talk to you off.
I don't
Why are
think-
they going smaller?
Well, the material,
Demolition, I'm assuming
Yeah,
you're going right on
the,
site.
for that disinfection byproduct reason.
There's not that much room to work.
A ton of organics.
It's all wood around
Part in there
Oh,
to get
trees
that out,
around,
but
yeah.
if the tank is
Well,
too
there won't
large,
be
it
clearing,
sits there,
well,
the water
it's
will
outside
turn
our
over
jurisdiction
enough.
anyway, so.
Just gotta get it up from it.
There's
Just
no
don't
water
start the
clearing or
capacity of the
anything.
tank, and it's at their recommendation.
You want to store long term.
Decrease.
Will that trail be maintained?
I'm assuming they're gonna have to block that trail.
Come on. Yeah.
I would think,
Don't
I don't
here,
think you're gonna want people hiking through there where
Yeah.
they're operating.
Yeah.
How long will it take?
What's that?
How long will it take?
Brian would probably answer.
Say that again.
How long will it
It's
take?
80, you're asking, we have to close the trail, but this is going.
The city's aware of that, Mark Piamarini and Jake,
How long will this project take?
we're expecting a final completion date of July 31st of next year.
And you're looking to get started sometime very soon?
So a contingency of this with the DEP is, so we had to go through extensive modeling to show that this tank could be gone for a period of time and still the system can still operate properly. So we're past that point, we're confident we have a standard operating procedure, et cetera. The filter media at the treatment plant that serves this tank was replaced early this year, or a year ago. It needs to get replaced again by the end of the year. So we're trying to determine what that date will be, and then allowing them to come in and demo the tank after that filter media has been replaced. So we're thinking right now targeting November 1st of this year to July 31st of next year.
So we're looking 7-8 months.
Yeah, and due to the fact that we want to have the tank on earlier than that, if possible, the city is open to letting them work longer days and weekends potentially too, to try to push that date up.
How will you maintain the pressure?
With the Pond Street pump station supplementing, and then we're using the No Town clear wells as storage. It's limited, but the anticipation is they can run the No Town plant continuously at 2.5 MGD during the winter months, and then they would run it at their capacity 4 MGD during the summer months, and then monitor the system pressure and the Pond Street pump station will be used to supplement water from the intermediate zone into the high zone.
That was needed.
Yeah. And the DEP was
And
concerned about
Street
all
pump
of that.
station will still keep it up some, so.
I'm not that familiar. Yeah, it's Pond Street pump station, and then the capacity of the clear wells is what is.
That's what connects to other parts of the system.
What's that?
Yeah, the Pond Street pump station.
Correct, yeah, you can move it from all three zone, move water
I
around.
think it's all interconnected.
It is.
Via that pump station is my understanding, but I don't know the system around it.
I don't know if that's, I think that's, that pump station in the intermediate zone, I don't think they ever really send water from there down to the distributing reservoir zone. I think there's a well field somewhere there that they use in that.
Some good information, I think this outside of, outside of purview, so I think we need to move on from these interesting yet irrelevant questions. All right, I don't have any further questions, anybody else have any questions?
I was gonna quick comment, I didn't understand why they're here necessarily, because it seems that it's exempt.
It's a request for determination.
It's an RDA.
I realize, but
Yeah.
it's exempt.
I guess it's a formality, if nothing else.
Just tell me what my vote would be, I guess.
All right, anybody else? All right, we'll go ahead and close this portion. Nobody here, so I won't open it. I thought we should anyway.
Open it.
Hey, I'll let you open it.
I don't think you can for requesting for determination.
Oh, it's RDA, that's right. Thank you, thank you, appreciate that. Good.
That's too bad.
Save me that 10 seconds of time.
Because if we said it did, then they'd have to file an NOI.
Yeah, correct.
Then they can bring 20 people.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good, thank you
Or
very
go
much.
appeal it otherwise.
Nick, what's your recommendation?
So yeah, I agree with Rich, it seems like an exempt project to me, so based on that, I would recommend a negative finding, specifically number 2, that it's within the buffer zone, but it's not gonna affect it.
Buffer zone of the river.
Riverfront.
It should be the one, it's in a resource area.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
I am corrected on the earlier comment.
Yeah.
It's not a buffer.
So a portion of the site is within the 200 feet of the river,
Yes.
but with a negative 2 determination. Okay, then I will go ahead and entertain a motion no wait, do we?
Yeah.
Sorry, I already in a while. A motion to a negative 2 determination on this RDA.
I'll make a motion for negative 2 determination.
Thank you, Liz, second.
I will second.
Thank you, Mike.
Rich,
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Chuck?
Aye.
Alright.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for presenting.
You can solve.
Small company, so it's drinking water.
Leads up to the over.
Special.
You can see the came across.
Oh,
Right, you know, you can see it from the two, how we came across the plot. That's the trade.
Because you got standard zones.
The tail end of the short.
If I may, can you guys continue this some other time?
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Gentlemen, can I continue this some other time?
Yes.
That was my doing.
It's okay.
You blame it on me.
I'm blaming on him, you're the commissioner, it can't be
Have a
your
good night.
fault.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I don't have one on me, when you give me your email, so,
That's for your records.
Yes.
Versions for everybody.
I'll go ahead.
I don't want any more paperwork.
Well, you give it back to me afterwards and I'll give it to Elizabeth tomorrow. I give it to the planning office, 9 copies. But at least you can read it tonight and.
Thank you.
I was there.
All right, let me go ahead and read this into the record. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent. Oh, this is a continued hearing, by the way.
Yes.
On a notice of intent regarding the construction of a residential subdivision and associated site work. Address Pierce Street, map and parcel 575-1, DP file number 199-1156. Wes, floor is yours, sir.
Again, for the record, Wesley Cliss, Daily Ward, here this evening on behalf of Great River Trust for a public hearing for a 13-lot residential subdivision off of Pierce Street. Since the last hearing, the intent was to be able to walk the wetlands with the commission, for most of the commission members to at least verify the wetland delineation, make sure the commission was comfortable with the wetland delineation. What I show here is the plan that we presented to you a month ago, I think a month and a half ago.
That's this plan here?
No, actually, so I gave you updated plans, and so I'm gonna go over that in a second.
Oh, okay.
And so, you can see on the front cover, I did update the plans. What I tried doing is making sweeping revisions to the plan to include everything that came from this commission, but also from all the rest of the departments in the city. We got comments from the planning office, the DPW, police, fire, and so what I tried doing is incorporating all their revisions also into the plans. It really wasn't really substantive to the commission.
For sure, that's not gonna.
No, yeah, it's good, it's just, it's a paper stick out. And so I'll go over the items, the first big item that I know when we walked the property the other day was the updated wetland delineation, and really is gonna be this finger of wetlands here that comes further into the site. And what happened is, over the last few years or so, this area's just been kind of ponding up. Eventually we'll just dump over and then continue down to the wetlands here. And so really this bump out here of wetlands, it's not a really mature wetland, but it is a wetland. It has the growth there and it has the higher soils. And then there's that hydraulic connection from that section back down to the original wetlands in here. And so we are showing that now on our plan. That kicks the 100-foot buffer zone out a little bit more, but it does get that section of wetlands real close to what we had for our original layout for the road. And so what we're proposing in that section is a retaining wall. At the most, we're at about a 4-foot high portion. Majority of it's gonna be a 2-foot high retaining wall. And we're proposing, I believe it's 576 square feet of wetland filling in that location. We looked at the wetlands, as I stated, it's a newer wetland. It wasn't in great condition, obviously, because we were in a drought. I know it was fairly dry out there, but it is still a wetland. What we thought, in lieu of that filling of the wetlands there, is to replicate around 1,175 square feet of wetlands closer to where the detention basin is proposed, where we do have healthier wetlands down here closer to Massapog Pond. It's definitely wetter down in this location. We definitely have a healthier wetland system as we get further down to the site. The areas that we walked with the commission members the other day was this section, because we wanted to make sure that we were able to look at this section here because we are within a 100 buffer zone. And then we were able to get out to the basin area. And we were able to get out into where that basin's situated to have a better look of why we chose that location, to see the grades in that location, to see how flat it was in that location. The one thing to point out actually with the new delineation is before we weren't gonna have to file for this lot, for that individual lot, so we will now have to file for this individual lot when that construction does happen. So we'll move back in front of the commission for the first lot on the, lot 13, yeah, the first lot on the right-hand side. So we're moving back in front of that commission for this, for that lot, but it's not part of this filing.
Right.
This filing is only for the roadway and the stormwater system and any of the other utilities as part of that. We're not filing for any of the lots at this point. We will do that when the developer decides exactly what houses he wants to put on the lots, and then we'll come back in front of the commission at that time for those lots. That was the big item, really had to do with that wetland filling there and the replication. One of the other items that the DPW did ask for is a access point down into the basin. We are showing a grass access point through this area here. So a small portion of it will be in the 100 buffer zone, but it will lead down into the basin there. They just want to make sure that we show that access point into the basin for the maintenance of the basin. The intent of the basin is to be maintained by the association. The DPW does not want to maintain the basin. They will take ownership of the streets, anything in the streets, but they do not want the basin. And so that's part of the conditions of approval when we deal with the planning board next week is the DPW wants that as a condition of approval that the association does maintain that basin. I know that I stated at the sidewalk, if the commission wants to make that also as a condition of an order of conditions, we have no issue with that also. There will be an association with this project, with it being an open space development like this. Part of the association requirements, nothing to do really with the commission, but they will also have ownership of the sewer outside of the layout of the street to service the 13 lots. That's really the main purpose of the association here, but they will also have the maintenance purpose of that basin. As part of our file that we had with the commission, we did submit a maintenance and operation plan for the drainage system, which includes this basin. And I know in the past, the commission has also included that as the order of conditions too. I don't know if that's going to be standard protocol, I would assume still. But I know in the past, you guys have kind of added at the end. We don't have an issue with that. We want to make sure that this is done right also.
Can you repeat that part?
So typically when the order of conditions is issued for a subdivision or a commercial site plan, in the past, the commission has included our operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater as part of the order of conditions, to make sure that is continued in perpetuity. So if the Realty Trust wants to sell the property to a developer,
The O&M plan goes with it.
it goes with it, exactly. So there's no secret there. And there's some, at least the commission has an ability to say to the new owner that we're gonna get turned over to a developer, it's right in your order of conditions, you're taking the order of conditions over as part of this project, you need to follow that over. And so that's right in our stormwater analysis that we submitted to the commission. It's right in the back section of that report. Other than that, that's the biggest changes that I think affect the commission. A lot of the other items have to do, outside of the buffer zone, had to do with hydrant placement, a couple trees that need to be removed further down Pier Street for site distance requirements. Had to do with details of where the trees lay out on the street. They wanted them outside the right of way. It's how the city wants them now. They don't want them in the layout of the street. But again, it's really out of the purview of the commission. But those are really the items that came up during that. And that's really the full sweeping revisions that we made. But there weren't a lot of that to do with the commission. But I want to make sure I pointed those couple items out to the commission members. I can answer any questions that the commission members may have with the updated plans that you.
All right, thank you, Wes. It was nice seeing you on the site the other day. Thanks for your time doing that.
No, it worked out great. I need to see the new delineation of the wetland, especially over there. I think it gave you guys an idea of why, at least in my opinion, I think and I know we talked about it too, is how this is gonna be done. I did add a detail on the last page on the replication area. And I did show a small bit of grading in there to get that almost like kind of looking at lower than about a foot. And make sure that does stay wet in that area. And so on the last, so it's double sided. So I was trying to save paper, I was trying to be somewhat green. So on the last page, I do show the application detail on there. And in there, we do call for the New England conservation mix.
You actually answered one of my questions. I was gonna ask if that's an open bottom basin, and it is.
Yes.
It's not a textile, but.
No. Replication area is gonna be, so.
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
Really, the intent here is that if we can get some of this material out of here that we can use, we'll transplant it down here. If not, they'll bring in something that they, but also include that New England conservation mix in there to get some of the plant life.
I'm sorry, I was making notes in my paper about a question I wanted to ask you. Did you confirm that you're gonna do 2-to-1 replication?
Correct, it is 2-to-1, yeah. So it's like I said, exact numbers for it.
So that's okay, it is 2-to-1 replication?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
As long as it's in the plan, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned sewer, so this is public water as well?
It is public water, public sewer, yes.
Okay, all right.
And so the water and sewers at the intersection of Jaws and Pierce, yeah, we're bringing both of them down.
That's right, because that's where they're gonna take a couple of trees out there.
Correct. Correct, at the intersection there.
All right, those are the only questions I had. Anybody else in the question have any? Rich?
Your grass path looks rather straight downhill.
Yep, and so 10% slope, maximum slope we like to have the grass paths at. We have gone steeper, but I don't have to in this case. Straight downhill, the water will kind of continue along that driveway.
You're telling me I go look at that in 2 years, 3 years after that?
I do show road control around there, and so as part of the maintenance plan for this, they'll also have to make sure that that path stays clear. And so as part of their mowing plan, so they typically mow the basins twice a year. It's standard. Maybe on this year they might get away with once a year, but typically it's twice a year. At the same time they go mow this, they'll have to still mow that path down because they need to get to the basin. And we
just kind of have the grass growing enough so that it doesn't just erode straight out.
No, and that's and really, I think they'll be able to get away with selectively clearing some of the smaller trees in there. I mean, when we walk, as we got out to this area, it wasn't as dense, right? And so I think we can do a better job of selectively clearing some of the trees in there to not make as much erosion of an issue about erosion.
If it doesn't come straight down, it wouldn't potentially erode as much either. I'm not saying it's going to, but you normally don't put trails straight down.
Yeah, and I looked at crowning it too, but I didn't want to. It's either or. If I go straight down, it's going to end up if I crown it to one side, it's gonna end up eroding, I think, to the side of it. If I go straight down, I was trying to get it to the sheet a little more, off to the side.
And if you put some kind of erosion control bars in there, that'll make mowing it difficult.
Yeah, and we can look at it as it goes to, and really, before we get into certificate of compliance, certificate of compliance, that's an area we can take a look at too, to make sure, obviously, you guys aren't gonna sign off until you're happy with the entirety of the project. So that could be an area that we do look at. I know it's out of the buffer zone, but we obviously don't wanna cause erosion coming down into the buffer zone.
Yeah.
So that is an area that we could definitely take a look at when we.
I just wanted something, if you had something below that,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, you can always, like maybe just put a small berm in there just to keep it going right down the hill.
turn it, yeah, so it just doesn't come shooting straight
Yeah,
down and not taking the left turn there.
Yeah.
It's just something to encourage the left turn.
Yeah, encourage
We
that.
can
or
put a
just
stone
divert
berm
that.
there, we can put a stone berm there.
Something and just.
Like a check dam or something along those lines, that's not an issue. And
The chairman's got a special condition.
you can make that condition, we have no issue with that, that's fairly minor, because they're gonna have so much stone anyways for the rest of the stuff they're doing, it's a fairly minor item.
Well, that's, it's gonna have an impact, I just thought it could.
Don't bet,
In that sense.
Alright, that was a good point, thank you,
Yeah,
I appreciate
thanks, I was fine with the replacement, I had no other question. Okay. But we're not approving the whole development? Or-
you're not approving the houses,
Just the roadway.
just the roadway and utilities, associated utilities with the roadway.
Because so very few of the houses are actually there.
Correct. And so, depending what happens to this house, the grading actually may get a little better, because right now, when I was talking to the current developer, they were looking at trying to make these.
Before they sell it to the next one?
Well, as
I'm sorry, that's
well,
irrelevant.
no, we talked about on the sidewalk, currently they're looking at building this out themselves. Obviously, if another developer comes in and makes them an offer that is worth their while, they would sell it, they're not against selling it.
Okay.
But this is how they kind of wanted to lay out the lots, is they wanted to lay out these houses sit street level. Obviously, we could suppress them and have have the driveways coming a little lower, and then the grading would change a little bit on these houses here. But that's the way this developer looked at it, because they're realtors and they kind of have an idea of how they want to market these houses. They have like I said, they have a vision on how they want to make this development work. And why they were okay with only doing 13 lots in the entirety of the property, because they're seeing this as a different type of development, I guess, in Leominster, where it's an acre lots. And
Good question, why are there two purple lines here at the bottom?
in here,
No, right here.
that's the other side of the wetland.
Oh, sorry, that's those little fingers of what? Oh,
Correct.
got it, okay.
And there's a upland in here, and then there's another wetland on the other side.
Got it.
Yep.
It's like the Sistine Chapel.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay.
I do have a question, so I know, this might be a little outside the scope, I know Mark Piamarini, mentioned that he would like to see the deep hole located in the detention basin be done before.
So there's an updated email.
Okay, there.
Yeah, so it's funny, so Mark and I talked about this about a year in July ago, when we did the preliminary plan from the planning board, because that was his initial question about deep holes. And so we asked to be able to do this during construction, once the trees are taken down but not stumped. So there's not a ton of erosion going on, but be able to get out there then, so we can actually get a machine out there a little easier. You saw how the beginning of that site was, it was kind of thick, we didn't want to get in there and start tearing anything up right now.
Yeah.
And so he did send an updated email to the planning board saying he was okay with that.
Okay.
And that did go to Stephanie and Elizabeth, and so that's gonna be one of their conditions of approval. That the testing get done at the time of, after tree clearing but not stumping, is when we requested it to be done.
Okay.
And so we can alert you when we're gonna do the testing, but I know Mark is gonna be out there too during that.
Yeah, if you could let me know.
And just so you understand why we weren't as concerned about it, is so a lot of this basin on the bottom, the part that's the infiltration part of it's in fill. And so we're confident that because it's so much higher than even the existing ground, that we're not gonna have a groundwater issue. And so that's why, and once I had that conversation with Mark, and he kind of remembered that conversation, he was like, oh yeah, that's why we had that conversation a year ago about this too, so.
Okay.
And so that's why he sent that additional email over to Stephanie. And so we have no problem if the commission wants to also put that up as a condition. But I know the planning board's gonna make that a condition of approval also.
And I have one last question, so again, you're gonna, about 50 acres of this is gonna be maintained as conservation land, is that the term that we're using?
44.8 acres of open space.
Open space?
Open space, and so the planning board
In
has.
perpetuity?
In perpetuity,
Okay.
correct. And so one of the notes actually I added to the plan, is on sheet one.
Oh.
Plan is proposed as the maximum build up of the subject property and will not be further subdivided. And so that was a note that was requested by the planning board to be added to the plan.
So that means the entire property?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then they'll end up with other conditions on there about what the open space can be used as. So
Who's they, planning?
The planning board. And so we did not file under a open space or cluster subdivision because we didn't need to, because our zoning meets the underlying zoning.
Yeah.
But there are certain requirements under their open space or cluster development requirements that I think that when they do their decision, they will carry over for the open space, so the open space can only be used for certain things. Passive recreational activities, trails. I know we were talking about trails the other day when we were out there, and I was asking about how some of the organizations that the city of Leominster has, because I know they have been contacted by, I think, 2 different land trusts about acquiring that land.
Okay.
And so that, ideally, they want to turn it over to a land trust.
Okay.
When everything's all said and done and developed.
All right.
And they've been working with them even longer than, because they've actually were trying to acquire the entire piece of property. Because they were trying to tie it in with the master public
Right.
bond.
Right, okay. All right, yeah, so before I close this out, just say stuff that I mentioned before, I just want to make sure it's on record. As I said to you at the sidewalk the other day, as the proposal came to us last year, for our agreement to make this all conservation land, we all tend to agree with it. And I would, as a ecologist, I would much prefer this to stay all open property, just to preserve the values of natural areas. But since that's not possible with what's in front of us, I do see the preservation of, would you say, 44.5 acres?
Yeah, 44.8.
I see that as a probably about the best we can do here. So I'm be very adamant that the rest of this be maintained as open space / conservation land, in a trust or some other conveyance. I just want to get that into the record. So if the conservation the commissioners have nothing else, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, or close this portion of it. Open up to the public. Is there anybody here to speak on the project? Second time? Third and final time? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing for what do we call it? Pier Street map and parcel 575-1. DP file number 199-756. Nick, what's your recommendation?
So I recommend that with the attached conditions of putting a berm or something along that maintenance road, and also just alerting me when you're going to be doing the deep hole. But with those attached conditions, I recommend that we. Also, I'd like to add on our conditions too that the basin is under HOA, just to, I know the other one is gonna have that as a condition, but just so we have it too. Yeah, and with those 3 attached conditions, I recommend approval.
Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the project as described.
And also, a 4th condition that we keep the conservation restriction on the rest of the land.
Good, yeah, thank you, I appreciate it.
Is that really within our jurisdiction of something we should do or something we want?
It's not really.
I'm wondering how much chief recommendation would have, but.
Well, not a conservation restriction, because that's a completely different animal though.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, what the best vehicle to do this is.
Is that something we should require of Wes?
At the end of it, you should make a recommendation to the planning board that you want to make sure that they keep it under their open space.
Do that.
I can do that recommendation, I'm not in favor of forcing him into it unless you
Not a
want.
restriction, well, we don't want want a conservation restriction, that's a completely different animal.
Yeah,
Correct.
We'd rather have the open space language that the planning board typically uses for cluster development. So that if somebody wants to come in here and use it as passive recreational activities, they can.
Right.
Right, okay.
But conservation restriction, sometimes that gets a little more strict.
Yeah, they kind of have a little more hair.
I would just be more interested in just mirroring that language with the planning board.
Yeah.
That's a little, that's different than a conservation restriction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I just thought that's
I think use conservation restriction is kind of a loose term.
Yes.
Like I said, the fact that they're adding that as open space is like a gift. We don't have the jurisdiction
Correct.
to require them to do anything with that.
Correct. Understood.
Let alone conservation restrictions.
Agreed.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's great that they're doing it,
Yeah.
super.
Right, but what's our involvement in that? It should be none, maybe.
I don't think we have any.
That's what I'm wondering.
But I think the best thing we can do is what Wes described, is to make a
Yeah,
recommendation.
you can make a notation in the order.
Right,
It
correct.
certainly isn't.
Do we encourage them, or encourage planning board to encourage you guys?
Yeah, I think, you could encourage them to make, you use the standard open space language under their cluster bylaw.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, then they-
That's what they wanna do, and that's what
Let's
they're
make
planning.
their recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, then that would be
But
the
that's,
fourth
I
condition.
think, that's different,
They
making
can
an
make a
open
note.
space under the cluster regulations,
Thank you.
not an open conservation restriction.
Right, we're watching the word.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're picking apart here.
Yeah, right. Okay, so with our last recommendation, based on Nick's recommendation, we'll request a motion for the standard boilerplate plus the 4 special conditions that we just described, for this proposal. Was that the motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
A second.
Thank you. And Liz?
I hope I.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeff?
I believe I have to abstain because I don't think I was here for the initial presentation.
You didn't watch the right.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Jeff abstains, and then Chuck.
And I vote aye.
So motion passes 5, 1 abstaining.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Let's go.
Good night. If you don't want them, I'll take them back too if you don't want them.
Yep. There you go. Thank you.
Like I said, I gotta make more copies anyways tomorrow for the planning on.
Once again, no chicken coops on this thing.
No chicken coops.
Whatever you do.
There you go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Wes.
Wes, would you be able to get in contact with the owner and see if he'd be okay with me visiting? I'd be interested in taking a look at that other wetland up there and seeing if we could get it certified as a vernal pool.
Which one?
That top.
Oh, this up
wetland
here?
there?
Yeah, I'll call, I'll contact you.
Not attached as conditions or anything, but I'm just thinking about that. I'd be interested in doing that.
That
Have you
would
missed
help.
your window for
So
vernal
Nick, we
pools though? Have you missed your window for vernal pools? I thought it'd be his free time.
Yeah.
I don't know when I think you can. So I think you can like apply for it to be certified any time of year, but I know there's certain
certified.
wood flushing things. Yeah.
Well, Chuck, who was here for the water tower, Chuck Karen, he'd be the guy if you wanna ask those questions, he's done a number of those.
Okay. Yeah. Alright, yeah, just more just a question generally for the future. I'd be interested in looking at
Okay,
that.
I'll ask you, yeah, and like I said, I know she's been talking with the land trust on trying to get this deeded over to the land trust, ever for happening, all else like that, so.
Perfect. Awesome.
Alright, thanks guys.
Thanks, Wes.
All right. Take a while to get to this point. Okay. Moving on. Under new business, there's one thing I'd like to add to new business, but we'll do the ones that are here first. Move to make Chuck Raymond the new chair following Amanda's exit. How do we do that?
So we just need to, someone other than you needs to make a motion to make you the permanent chair, because if anyone's not aware, Chuck has been acting as an interim chair since Amanda's exit. So, yeah.
Can I jump in on that?
Sure.
I think perhaps the best way to approach that is to open it up for nominations, because that's part of why we didn't vote last time, in case somebody who wasn't here wanted to make another nomination.
Okay.
No offense, but I think that's the way to start.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
And then if there's no other nominations, then we take a vote.
Okay.
Otherwise, we take a vote between those who were nominated and so decide to accept this position.
Sure. All right. So would we go by each person and ask them to nominate somebody?
Sure.
Is that
I think it's more just an open, if someone has a nomination, rather than.
I'll nominate Chuck Raymond, if I may.
I also nominate Chuck.
do we have any other nominations? Possible chair, okay.
Is everybody looking at me?
We're
I'm
just
just
double
gonna-
checking.
we have a nomination?
No.
We all look to you, Ben.
We know your,
I'm all good.
we know your condition.
I'm all good.
And I probably shouldn't nominate myself, so I'll just abstain, I guess.
Yeah, so I think, then, someone just has to, like a vote, someone makes a motion and a second.
I make a motion
I second it.
Chuck Raymond become the new chair.
I second the motion.
Alright, and Liz,
I vote aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and Jeff,
Alright.
and I'm not sure if, I think
Yes.
you have to abstain.
Yeah,
so,
I abstain,
motion
yeah.
passes.
I would think you'd have to accept.
You
Well,
can vote no and you're still passing the new chair. It's gonna be 5-1.
Forced into it, right? No, I accept your nomination, thank you very much.
Alright, so motion passes, Chuck is the permanent, or current.
Well, not permanent.
Not permanent, but the official chair.
This isn't a lifetime.
Yeah, I'll move in
Until
here.
then.
Supreme Court justice.
Yes.
Alright.
Kinda like the queen.
Alright, cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Alright, new website is live, leominster-mass.gov, or -ma.gov, I should say.
Yeah, so that's the same URL, but the
Check
new
it out.
website is up. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, I encourage you to go on there and take a look. And I have access to the conservation sections and all the pages under there, so if you have any recommendations from me,
So you can update the conservation
I
page
can
yourself?
update it. I'm working on getting
Perfect.
we'll talk about minutes in a few minutes, in a second here, but I'm gonna be updating the minutes and the agendas as we go
My
forward.
name is spelled correctly.
And your name is spelled correctly on there with only 2 C's, not 3 C's on it, so.
And that's how you'll be able to put the PDFs of those plans for
Yes.
Wildflower Road, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't even considering that, but apparently that was a thing before, and I'd be more than happy to do that.
Do you have a member-only zone for you to put draft minutes for us to look at?
That's a good idea.
Because they shouldn't go on, she can't go on the public website until we voted on it.
Right, because Angela used a Google Drive folder that she shared and
Right.
restricted access. You know.
I was just gonna put the minutes up just after approvals. So I haven't put any minutes
No,
up.
the draft, so we can review the draft minutes.
Oh, okay,
You can email them.
I was gonna probably just email them, but I can look into that and see.
Yeah, look into it, whichever's easier.
Yeah.
She put up all the plans, which gave us a chance to look at them in advance of meetings.
Yeah.
And that was a helpful thing.
That's helpful too, yeah.
In which case you would have that NOI already set up, ready to go, you just had to put it in the public zone for that one case.
Yeah.
that we had tonight.
Alright, cool.
I will look into that.
Good, well, we can update that ourselves, or you can do it yourself, that's good.
Yes.
But the only other thing I wanted to add to this, as I mentioned before, and we were talking about it a little bit at the beginning of the meeting, I'm a volunteer water quality sample with the National Watershed Association, and they have known for many years, I've only been doing it for what, 3 or 4 years, but for many years before that, they've known about a really hot E. coli spot at my sampling location in Manchester, down by the Whitney Street apartments. Nothing to do with the apartments, it's upstream from there. So I guess they had done some testing a few years ago. They did some DNA sampling and testing, and they tested it for human, dog, pig, horse, cow, whatever. So several species, it was virtually all human. So this E. coli is coming from someplace, they don't know where. So the Jessica VZ Powell from the association was proposing to send a letter to the DPW business director, with whom they've worked in the past, and copy to the city council and board of health, and hopefully copy was. They would suggest a repeat of the building dye tests, testing the sewer and CSO pipes that not nearby that could be leaking, and possibly some surveillance with building owner agreement to see if anyone's dumping waste that could cause a problem. So I just wanted to, we don't need to do anything, so I just wanted to just let you guys know, so this may be coming before us again. I'm not sure how much of it is anything we would have to do even in the future, but just more just an FYI, fill you in.
When's that one going out, Chuck?
Sometime soon. There's no, they want,
They send in the copy to the DEP.
I can have them.
Probably should.
So how far from your sampling site going upstream until they get much better results?
I don't know, as far as I know, that's the only
How
sampling site.
far of a stretch is it that they're
I
look at?
There's no other-
They don't have it constrained to a certain zone.
No, but there's no, where he's sampling, there's no other sampling site between here and Rogers Pond.
Well, there's no official site in their normal sampling protocol, but clearly, if you're trying to track where something's coming in, you go upstream,
Right.
you find where it isn't, and you narrow it down.
Right.
You had to do this.
But presently, that's the only site that's being,
So how far up is it? Because you don't want, I would personally not support dye testing until I knew how far up I gotta go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would
You can
narrow
do
it
it your
down
time.
through the river to a shorter stretch than unlimited upstream, so
Yeah.
before I took.
Yeah, I'll pass on that, they're both DEP and to
Thank you.
let us know how far, if they will be taking new samples, how far upstream will that be
Yeah,
going?
because that's pretty cheap to do some E. coli samples.
Yeah, I think they do it themselves, actually. It's just a matter of just the time.
Yeah, man, getting out there and taking them, and I mean, I've done this before for contaminants that hit and smelled up the river, and I would just go from bridge to bridge to bridge until I found, oh, there it is, this is where it started, now it's here.
Yeah, okay.
First thing you can do is do qualitative, how's it cheap?
Yeah.
You know, is it there or isn't there?
Yeah, positive, negative,
Right.
E. coli test,
And then,
coli, sugar.
you go upstream and it's there, and then it's not there, well, now you know you can
Pin it down to a
testing
certain.
from here to there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
So they
Right.
can narrow it down a lot, cheaper dye testing buildings.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, so I'll reply to Jessica at the association.
Hey, could you just forward me that email or anything
Sure.
related to that, just like loop in?
There's a laboratory in here.
Oh, the show would help those guys.
No, it's not in the show, it's in the.
No, it's,
The orchestra?
no, analytical in the air.
Yeah, it's an independent lab.
Oh, it is? Yeah, no, but the E. coli testing, they do themselves at the association, they can do it there.
They do.
Okay, so again, I don't want to belabor that point, I just want to kind of just fill you guys in, I'll keep you posted as things happen. Moving on to old business, possible new commission member to attend next meeting.
Yeah, so this is the same commission member I talked about the last meeting, Josh Bowdridge, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but I asked him to come to this meeting, he's actually away on vacation, but he said he should be able to make the August 23rd meeting, so
Show this down tonight.
Yeah, he really did well, maybe.
You'll get it on the 23rd.
Yeah, I bet you.
Especially when we vote.
Yeah. I bet you if they're able to, a lot of the same people are probably gonna show up.
Yeah.
So.
Has he gone through the interview process with Mayor and everything?
No, so they would like him to attend a commission meeting just to make sure it's something that he's like not absolutely uninterested in, and then once he does that, he's still in for it, then we'll go through that
Now we're gonna
process.
have what's her face.
Yeah, we'll see, well, if Josh isn't interested, we got a backup.
We got Stephanie Quinlan.
Yes.
What's his background, you know?
I know he was with the Trail Stewards, he did some work there, but that's about all I know.
So you mentioned it before.
Yeah, that's all I know about him.
All right. All right, cool. All right, moving on, so you know.
Debiana.
Do you know?
No.
Do you know?
No, I do not know the names.
All right, moving on. Nothing under certificate of compliance, nothing under extension permits. Communications, Lancaster map and parcel 8-45 development, email from town resident. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the one that.
Yeah, we got an email through the website that Nick got that he forwarded to me. Woman from, just, and again, we don't do anything, it's just an FYI. Woman from Lancaster wanted to notify us that the mayor had signed an agreement in the fall of 2020 to allow to build a water pipe from someplace on Johnny Appleseed Lane to the Lancaster-Leominster line, so that a new proposed development on Route 70 in Lancaster could connect to it. And then basically we'd be selling them money, selling them water. And this woman is opposed to it, so she sent me this email and wasn't asking anything. She made this like statement in her email. And so I replied back and I said, I'm sorry to get your email, thank you very much, but you're not asking yourselves of anything. This was a question you had to ask. She basically replied back saying, yeah, sorry about that, I didn't mean to be that passive aggressive, sorry, I should have actually asked your question. She goes, no, as you can tell, I'm vehemently opposed to this development. And I just recommended that she has problems that she needs to work through with the town of Lancaster, because
That goes back forever.
Yeah.
This request for the water line and all that.
Does it?
Oh, yeah.
this first I'd heard of
They've been checked out, because Shirley's gonna bring it
Oh,
in,
yeah.
it's for development of cluster housing and all that.
Yep.
40B and everything along, so.
I didn't know why they needed it from Leominster. Why they needed water from Leominster, I don't know. Couldn't know, why there wasn't enough water there, or why they came to Leominster, I have no
I
idea.
don't remember,
Yeah.
but that's been kicked around for years.
Why they
Years
never
and
Leominster,
years.
it's literally backs right up onto that.
Right.
70.
Right, yeah. So I just wanted to let you know, again, I doubt anything will come of it again, but I just wanted to let you know that I got that email and I responded to it. I asked Nick what to do, and he goes, well, why don't you reply? Should actually, it was sent to Commission Chairman Chuck Raymond, or something, or Commission Chairman Raymond, so we want you to reply to her. Okay, that's why I replied to her. All right, moving on, open space and recreation plan received from Recreation Department last week.
Yeah, so we got the new recreation, open space and recreation plan for 2021 through 27 or 28, can't remember, but, yeah, well, I have a copy of that. If anyone's interested in looking at it or getting another copy, you know, you just let me know, but just so you know, we have it.
Sorry, I replied to a text from my wife like 45 minutes ago, sorry about that.
That's fine.
Careful.
I know, sorry. All right, meeting minutes. Backlog should be up to date to be posted on a new website.
Yes, so I got, the meeting minutes from May 10th and from June 14th. I just got those the other day, so I'll be sending those out to you guys, to approve.
You'll be emailing them to us?
Yeah, I'll email them to you for now. I'll be in touch about putting them on the website, but just expecting an email from now.
Okay.
And, I was told that the rest of them should be coming, so I anticipate the rest should be in by the next meeting.
Okay.
But not on the website.
Not on the website, not until you guys
So
approve.
you're gonna send them out to us to review.
Yes.
And we're gonna get to them how fast? Because in the past, we've gone rather slow.
Slowly, yeah. Quickly as possible.
I'll get them out as fast as I get them.
Okay. All right.
And at some point, Mr. Siki was taking a first look at them. Are we necessarily keeping with that?
It's up to.
Is Nick even aware of this?
Yeah, so what was the protocol?
Just
the transcriptions were kind of grammatically incorrect,
Uh-huh.
and so I can went and just kind of clean them up. Gradually.
It was more syntax and punctuation
Yes.
than actual content.
So it looked a little more professional
Right.
before we started posting.
Like Mr. Karen was Karen instead of CARON.
Right.
Like asking who is this, I don't know what his name was.
If you don't mind continuing that, that sounds fine to me. So I'll send them to you first, clean them up, and then I'll send them out to everybody.
And you could track edit them and then send those to us. We need to see the original versions of the changes, depending on how small it is, right?
Yeah, the draft minutes are in Word, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I just put track changes on.
Yep. Okay, that's cool. Great. Moving on, nothing under enforcement, nothing under emergency certifications, nothing under budget. Next meeting will be August 23rd, 2022. The filing deadline was last Friday, August 5th at noon. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Jeff?
Second.
Liz?
Rich? Want to keep going?
Aye.
Okay. Ken? Mike?
Aye.
Chuck?
Aye.
All right.
All right, phew,
Adjourn.
that was unexpected.